Chapter 1157. A Powerful Existence 1. The 5 old men from Mercenary City charged at Jian Chun in unison. Although Tian Jian was the Grand Elder of Mercenary City, he was unable to stop them. The 5 of them possessed a special status in Mercenary City, and were even older than Tian Jian. They were his seniors, in other words. The situation of the vengeful spirits was disastrous. The Orus sand posed too great of a threat to them. Once they came into contact with the sand, they would catch on fire immediately. They could not put out the flames at all, which caused their strength to rapidly weaken. Many vengeful spirits had retreated already, and some of them had even been beaten to the point where they could no longer recondense their bodies. They were greatly injured. Jian Chun was completely panic-stricken in front of the saint's fruit right now. It was surrounded by a powerful formation at level he could not break through. Ziying Qing Sua. Is there any way to break through this formation? Jian Chun sought help from the sword spirits. Master, this is a closed formation. There is no way in or out, so the only method to get through it is by destroying it with supreme force, Qing Sua said in Jian Chun's head. Beside him, Rui Jin, Hong Lian, and He Yu fought as hard as they could. Not only did they block vengeful spirits, even some human saint kings had become their enemies. Spatial gravity. Suddenly someone yelled out. A great elder from a protector clan used an ancient secret technique from far away, which caused the gravity around Rui Jin and the others to skyrocket. The 3 of them all slightly sank. At that moment, they felt like they had become over 1,000 times heavier, which had even caused the ground below them to sink. Even Jian Chun was affected. A gleam of stern light flashed through Rui Jin's eyes. With a deep call, the sacred dragon's sword struck the space, while glowing with a dazzling golden light. It caused the space there to violently shake, breaking through the ancient secret technique with supreme strength. As soon as the ancient secret technique was broken, a vast pressure descended from the sky again. There were saint kings casting saint-tier battle skills, and the number of them had reached over 30. Rui Jin flung out his hand, and 18 palm-sized banners suddenly appeared. Every single banner shone with a hazy golden light. Through the light, the banners could be seen covered in inscriptions, and strands of powerful energy radiated from within. The 18 banners arranged themselves in the empty air and began to shine with a blinding light. The rays of light weaved together, actually forming a faint barrier of energy to protect them. The saint-tier battle skills were used at the same time. Over 30 tremendous ripples of energy erupted, and the extremely powerful attacks landed on the golden barrier almost at the same time, causing the barrier to violently shake. The barrier was not destroyed, but over 20 vengeful spirits who were attacking it were reduced to dark mist by the saint-tier battle skills. Swish! The golden light disappeared with a flash. Rui Jin knew that Jian Chun could not break through the formation protecting the fruit, so he stabbed at the formation with his sword. The formation around the fruit violently shook, but it stabilized once again. Rui Jin's attack, which was no weaker than a blow from a saint emperor, was actually not enough to break through it. Let's break through this formation together, He Yu growled. The origin energy weapon in his hand began to shine with a blinding white light, as a mysterious and powerful origin energy coiled around the surface. Afterward, he struck the formation in unison with Rui Jin. Rui Jin and He Yu were both extremely careful. Although the origin energy weapons possessed tremendous strength, they could control it. As they swung down, they did not target the fruit, but the formation around it. They were afraid that they would destroy the fruit with even the slightest carelessness. The formation protecting the fruit was far more powerful than they had imagined. It did not shatter after withstanding the joint attack, and instead, it just trembled even more heavily. Again, He Yu roared out as a vast presence exploded from him. His clothes and long hair danced about despite the absence of wind, while the machete in his hand emitted an even more dazzling light. He struck the formation once again along with Rui Jin's sword. This time, the formation finally shattered as it gave in. Without any hesitation, Jian Chun used the jade body to carefully collect the saint's fruit, before grabbing the 9 leaves as well. He stored the box away carefully. Jian Chun immediately exhaled a deep breath after he did all that. He gently rubbed his space ring as joy filled him inside. He had finally obtained the fruit, as he had wished after so much effort. The barren, small tree quickly began to wither now that the fruit and 9 leaves had been removed. It shriveled up in the blink of an eye, before disappearing into the earth. Boom! With a deafening rumble, the 18 small banners finally shattered from the violent attacks by the human Saint Kings and vengeful spirits. A great group of Saint Kings aggressively charged toward Jianshan. Hand over the Saint's fruit, many Saint Kings roared. They all seemed to have been peeved by the fact that Jianshan had taken the Saint's fruit, all falling into a rage. They could no longer bother with anything else. The enticement of the Saint's fruit was just far too great. It was so great that even ancient clans dared to offend protector clans to obtain it, because this was their only chance to have a clan member become a Saint Emperor. Once they had broken through successfully, there would be no problems even if they had offended the protector clans, since they would then possess the ability to contend with the protector clans at that time. Chapter 1158. A Powerful Existence 2. A devastating golden sword chi suddenly appeared. As a streak of light, it chopped through the air and traveled with an unstoppable force. The 100-meter-long sword chi enveloped all the human experts who were charging over, causing them to pale. At the same time, a huge silver blade of light shot through the air with lightning-like speed, chopping towards the human experts in another area. The surrounding temperature quickly rose as terrifying waves of heat shot out. Roaring white flames suddenly leaped into existence, forming a terrifying wall of fire in the air. Countless experts were afraid of getting close to it. They all feared it. Rui Jin, Hong Lian, and He Yu attacked in unison. They faced enemies from all directions. With their origin energy weapons, they formed a tight defense, keeping countless Saint Kings at bay. Although the Saint Kings were not as powerful as the vengeful spirits, they possessed intelligence. They knew how to work with one another, and they knew many ancient secret techniques and Saint-tier battle skills. It was no easier to face them than the vengeful spirits. Faced up against Rui Jin and He Yu's attacks, all the Saint Kings immediately began to work together, with a tacit understanding. They all sent their attacks at the sword chi and thr blade of light in unison. There were no Saint Emperors among the human experts, but attacks from several dozen Saint Kings, or even 100, were no weaker than one from a Saint Emperor. It even seemed to surpass the attack of a Saint Emperor. Even if Saint Emperors were present, all they could do was dodge. With 2 deafening booms, Rui Jin and He Yu's attacks from the origin energy weapons were blocked by all the Saint Kings. The origin energy weapons were powerful, but Saint Emperors could block them. The Saint Emperors would only become heavily injured if they were wounded by the origin energy. The human experts' confidence grew after blocking Rui Jin and He Yu's attacks. The fear within them was reduced as they all rushed forward. However, no one dared to touch Hong Lian's wall of fire, all detouring around it. There were fewer and fewer vengeful spirits now. The Aurous Sand was very effective, bringing a radical change to the situation and killing off many vengeful spirits. It consumed all of the spirits' energy so that they could no longer recondense, reduced to a dense, dark mist in the death nest. Only after countless years would they be able to recondense. Of course, a small portion of vengeful spirits had run away and avoided the disaster. The vengeful spirits were invulnerable in the death nest. Hong Lian released the killing formation. Rui Jin called out before immediately pulling out the formation he had prepared earlier. He tossed it out, and it activated in the air. Radiating with powerful ripples of energy, the space in a radius of 1,000 meters distorted. All the Saint Kings in the region disappeared, becoming trapped in the formation space. Hong Lian frowned and lamented. We prepared these formations specifically for the vengeful spirits. We've changed many aspects and replaced them with methods to deal with the vengeful spirits. If we use it against these humans, the advantages of the killing formations will almost be non-existent. It won't be able to trap them for long. However, Hong Lian did not hesitate even though that was what she said. She threw out a killing formation and trapped over 30 Saint Kings in it. Close to 100 Saint Kings had been trapped by the 2 killing formations, greatly reducing the pressure they faced. He Yu possessed no formations. He killed his way into the groups of humans with his machete. As his blade fell, blood splashed everywhere. No one was Heiyu's opponent, except for the Saint Kings at great perfection. And even they were unwilling to take Heiyu's attacks head-on. The Saint Kings were thrown into an utter mess by Heiyu. As Heiyu rampaged among them, it was very difficult for them to gather several dozen people to work together and use powerful attacks. Rui Jin looked back at Jian Chun and said, "These killing formations don't pose a great threat to the human experts. They'll break free very soon. Jian Chun, follow behind us. We'll kill our way out." Jian Chun sternly nodded. Their plan could only adapt to the changes. Originally, they had planned to get Tai Ta to take them out after they had obtained the fruit. But there were too many human experts here now. Jian Chun could only leave Tai Ta in the Saint Artifact to protect his identity. Rui Jin, Hong Lian, and Heiyu paved a path up ahead. They killed the Saint Kings that charged up while Jian Chun did not stand around either. He wielded the Emperor armament as he fought against 5 Saint Kings, 2 at the 7th heavenly layer, and the rest at the 6th. The Saint Artifact hovered above his head, helping him block powerful attacks from time to time. The 4 of them had basically become public enemies in everyone's eyes. They received attacks from all directions, enduring constant barrages from various ancient secret techniques and Saint-tier battle skills. However, the attacks struggled to harm Rui Jin, Hong Lian, or Heiyu since they were clad in origin energy armor. The Saint Artifact also helped Jian Chun block 2 Saint-tier battle skills as they moved. Behind the groups of people, 5 old men sat together in the air, casting a secret technique. They then pointed at Heiyu from afar, and an extremely obscure ripple of energy expanded. It was very difficult to sense. Heiyu's face suddenly changed as he fought. A trail of blood flowed from the corner of his mouth, and he began to tremble a little. His face paled. "Heiyu, what's wrong?" Rui Jin immediately asked when he sensed the abnormality of Heiyu. He was filled with shock. "It's poison." Supreme experts that are well versed with poison have secretly poisoned me. They've actually planted it directly into my body. What great skills, Heiyu explained in a heavy voice. His face had already darkened while the blood at the corner of his lips had turned black. Surprised, Jian Chun immediately arrived beside Heiyu. He used the Saint Artifact to cover himself, as he injected a strand of radiant Saint Force origin energy into Heiyu. Heiyu waved his hand and said, "It's not a problem. The poison's extremely powerful, but my body is no ordinary body. I can suppress it for a few days." Jian Chun also knew that right now was not the time to cure Heiyu from his poison. He said, "Senior Heiyu, when we leave here, I'll use the origin energy of Radiant Saint Force to completely cure you of the poison." Near the back of all the people, the 5 old men, who had cast the poison, stood up at the same time. One of them said to the 5 veterans from Mercenary City nearby, "We've already used the poison of Heaven's End to heavily injure one of them. It's about time you 5 get moving." The 5 old men from Mercenary City nodded. Without saying anything, they immediately stood in a pentagram formation. Immediately, 5 tremendous presences radiated from their bodies. They formed 5 pillars of energy, which surged into the sky. The 5 old men had reached the great perfection of Saint King long ago. They had already arrived at the peak of their cultivation level. They were existences that were infinitesimally close to Saint Emperor, and were extremely powerful. The 5 of them used an absolutely secret technique together. The commotion was so great that it alerted many people present, and they immediately glanced over. The Changyang clan, and the Grand Elder of Mercenary City, remained in the distance. They never took part in the fight for the fruit. Seeing what the 5 old men were doing, Tianjin gently sighed. He obviously knew what secret technique the 5 of them were using, but he was filled with helplessness since he could not go and stop them. At this moment, the presences of the 5 old men actually fused together. Their presences joined to become an even more terrifying presence, where even their energies stacked together. It became a force that could even shake the world, causing many Saint Kings to tremble inside. Saint Emperor. This is the overwhelming presence that only Saint Emperors can possess, some people exclaimed. The 5 old men had used a secret technique to pool their power together, actually reaching the power of a Saint Emperor. They had basically reached the level of a saint emperor, through an alternate method, shocking many people present. The 5 old men were surrounded by a bright layer of white light as a tremendous, terrifying energy rippled in their surroundings. The 5 of them seemed to have come with the Grand Elder of Mercenary City. They seem to be using an extremely powerful ancient secret technique, and they need time to charge it up even with their strength that has reached the utmost peak. A Saint King from an ancient clan said. He was deeply shocked that Mercenary City actually hid such unknown experts. At this moment, tremendous amounts of energy quickly condensed above the 5 old men. In the end, it transformed into a figure completely condensed from energy. Its facial features were clear-cut, and it seemed alive. It seemed just like an immortal. Emotianyan, that's Emotianyan. It's the champion of the humans, Emotianyan. Just what is this powerful ancient secret technique? It can even condense Emotianyan's figure. Countless people cried out in amazement. At this moment, the Saint Kings all struggled to keep their composure even with their mental fortitude. Emotianyan was just far too well known. Even after 1,000,000 years, Emotianyan remained a godlike figure in the hearts of a countless number of people. Not only was this because he was the savior of the human race, having repelled the invasion of the 100 races, but he was also a glorious legend among the humans. He was the only sovereign-like figure that had surpassed Saint Emperor as a human. Chapter 1159, A Powerful Existence 3, Standing like an Immortal. The might from Emotianyan deeply shocked all the experts present. Under Emotianyan's tremendous presence, many Saint Kings had even lost the will to resist. Rui Jin, Hong Lian, He Yu, and Jian Chun were also alerted by the incomparable might, but they tried to break free. They all looked at Emotianyan's projection and became extremely stern. Emotianyan was projected by the 5 old men of Mercenary City, using an absolutely secret technique. This was something that Emotianyan had left behind in the past, and it surpassed Saint-tier battle skills. However, the conditions for casting the technique were extremely arduous. Only Saint Emperors could use it. The 5 old men had only barely managed after fusing their strength, using another secret technique. The secret technique was left behind specifically for Saint Emperors. There was no room for doubt over its power. Suddenly, Emotianyan's figure moved. He took a step forward, and the entire place immediately shook. The casual step hid an unbelievable amount of power. At that moment, space seemed to freeze and time seemed to stop. The churning black mist in the death nest calmed down. Emotianyan seemed to become the only thing in the world. Then, the space beneath his foot immediately began to ripple in a terrifying fashion. This ripple spread toward Rui Jin, and the others like a sword, moving extremely quick. All the Saint Kings stopped whatever they were doing. Their attention was involuntarily drawn to Emotianyan. His simple-looking step contained the truths of the world. It used the energy of the world. Rui Jin, He Yu, Hong Lian, and Jian Chun immediately felt like they were immobilized. They had been firmly trapped there by an invisible energy, only able to watch helplessly as the rippling space quickly approached them like a sharp sword. Suddenly, a powerful golden light appeared on Rui Jin. His body rapidly expanded, and a layer of densely packed golden scales covered his body. He had assumed a half-dragon, half-human form, using his supreme strength to break free. Coupled with a roar that could shake the heavens, the sacred dragon's sword had shot forward as a golden streak of light. Fusing with his sword, he stabbed at the rippling space as hard as he could. The two silently collided, and did not produce a great explosion. The space only violently shook, becoming blurry and distorted. Everyone's senses were affected. The rippling from Emotianyan's foot vanished. It had been blocked by Rui Jin, but Rui Jin suffered as well. He was launched back, landing 1,000 meters away in a horrible condition. The light from the origin energy armor on his body had dulled by noticeable amount. With a clear phoenix's cry, Hong Lian also forcefully broke free as fire flashed through the air. She turned into a huge divine phoenix, radiating with scorching white flames. She used the scorching Gauffire hairpin to attack Emotianyan's figure. Emotianyan remained expressionless. He was not the real Emotianyan. He was only the result of a secret technique. one that had surpassed Saint-tier battle skills. He extended a finger and endless amounts of world force immediately gathered from outside the death nest. The world force actually condensed into a 5-meter-long finger in a short moment, and that finger then shot toward the hairpin with an unstoppable force. Boom! With a violent rumble, the origin energy weapon was knocked away by Emotinion's finger, while the finger dispersed at the same time. Ka! An elated phoenix's cry rang out while Hong Lian used her clan treasure to protect herself. Endless amounts of white flames surged toward Emotionion, enveloping him along with the 5 old men that were hiding within the secret technique. She wanted to burn all of them to ashes. Emotinion's figure gradually dulled. His presence also rapidly weakened. He was not the real thing, and only a secret technique. Once the technique ran out of energy, he would disperse. Saint force circulated within the 5 old men's bodies, temporarily protecting them from the flames. However, they had become much paler, and their faces were filled with exhaustion. Arg! The 5 old men called out at the same time. They poured their 3 vital energies into Emotinion's figure, allowing him to consolidate once more. Under the control of their mind, Emotinion smashed a palm firmly onto Hong Lian. Bang! With a muffled sound, Hong Lian's huge body was blown through the air with her white flames. She was launched far away by Emotinion's palm strike. Roar! A deafening dragon's roar rang through the sky. The tremendous dragon aura had enveloped virtually all of the death nest. Rui Jin had completely assumed his original form, turning into a 100-meter-long golden divine dragon. His scales were lustrous and shined with a golden light. Emotionion remained where he was without moving. He launched a palm strike at Rui Jin from 1,000 meters away. The strike suddenly became several hundred meters wide in the air as it fell toward him. It clenched the dragon tightly to its palm. Great dragon roars rang out time and time again. Clenched in Emotinion's hand, Rui Jin was currently attacking as hard as he could, causing the palm to constantly shake. The 5 old men from Mercenary City all slightly trembled. They had already become pale white, and exhaustion was spelled out on their faces. They needed to use their vital energies to cast the secret technique, and the longer they used THRM, the more vital energies would be consumed. They were already old men, so they could not last very long at all. He sure is worthy of being a king of the dragon. This golden divine dragon has yet to become a saint emperor, yet it already possesses such great battle prowess. It's not because our secret technique is not powerful enough, but because the dragon has origin energy treasures. The 5 old men gruffly came to a conclusion. Every single one of them possessed an ugly complexion, and one of them called out, "The golden divine dragon has already been trapped by us, while one of the other 2 magical beasts has been hit by the poison of Heaven's End from the Heaven's Incense School. Only the divine phoenix is left. Everyone use your supreme secret techniques to keep her busy. The saint's fruit will belong to use without the 3 of them getting in the way." Many people became tempted, other than the Changyang clan, the 1 or 2 experts from the other 8 protector clans, and a few from the ancient clans, all began casting their supreme secret techniques to trap Hong Lian. It was different from before since they were not offensive secret techniques, but techniques to entrap. They all knew that Rui Jin and the others were protected by origin energy armors. No matter how powerful the attacks were, it would be difficult to injure them. The people from the Changyang clan did not interfere. As soon as they did anything, it would be equivalent to becoming everyone's enemy. "I'd like to see whether you have the ability to trap me," the phoenix said in human tongue. Her eyes had already become completely red as roaring flames leaped about them. Jianshen, enter the artifact space. Heyu commanded Jianshen. His complexion had already become very dark as black blood flowed continuously from the corner of his mouth. The poison was much more potent than he had imagined. At this moment, the entire place began to shake. The entire death nest seemed to violently tremble, causing to everyone to lose their footing. Closely after the trembling, a swathe of extremely dense red mist appeared from the depths of the death nest. It seemed to be completely created from blood, as the grudges of the dead, and Yin Qi cowered away. It's baleful Yin force. It's actually the baleful Yin force of the Bloodsword sect. Impossible. How can there be baleful Yin force in the death nest? Chapter 1160. The Blood-Red Skeleton. A series of exclamations rang out. Disbelief flooded the faces of many people. The people from the 10 protector clans were affected in particular. They were all shocked inside. There were descriptive records of everything within the death nest in the 10 protector clans. All of the information originated from the countless times their ancestors had explored the land, and they had recorded everything about the place. However, the existence of baleful force in the death nest had never been mentioned. There was only copious amounts of qi and grudges. The baleful force is a special secret technique of the Bloodsword sect. Does that mean there is an expert of the Bloodsword sect cultivating here? That's impossible. I've met experts of the Bloodsword sect before. It's impossible for their baleful force to appear here. And the energy that has just appeared is countless times more powerful. What terrifying baleful force. Even so far away, my soul is still affected. It feels like it's being siphoned away by the baleful force. All the Saint King's expressions changed. They all stared at the extremely dense, blood-red mist in shock. The baleful force did not approach them, but their souls were all affected anyway. This filled them all with deep shock. Tianjian also became extremely stern. He stared at the baleful force in interest and gruffly said, "What powerful baleful force? It's actually several hundred times more powerful than Houston's. How is it created? If it originates from a person, then that person's strength would be too terrifying." Jianshan stared at the cloud of baleful force unblinkingly. He thought inside, is Uncle Shou cultivating here? Has he already become a Saint Emperor? Bang! 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 Suddenly, muffled sounds reverberated from the depths of the death nest. The ground constantly trembled as a demonic, 100-meter-tall figure gradually emerged from the cloud of baleful force. All the Saint Kings became stunned when they saw the demonic figure's appearance. It was actually a 100-meter-tall skeleton. It was completely blood-red, as if it had bathed in blood. It stood in the baleful force, and actually seemed to be a part of it. The baleful force is from this skeleton. Someone cried out from the crowd. With that, everyone immediately looked closer. Indeed, they discovered that the extremely dense baleful force was radiating from every single bone of the skeleton. The baleful force actually originated from the huge skeleton that had appeared out of nowhere. This made many people extremely surprised. The skeletons formed from countless bones of Saint Emperors. It's all from the experts that were buried here. Another knowledgeable person cried out. What he said astounded every single Saint King. How is this possible? How have the remains that Mo Tianyun buried all those years ago formed such a huge skeleton? Did someone do something to the death nest? Which is why a huge skeleton has appeared here. The Saint Emperor ancestors of our 10 protector clans have searched the death nest many times in the past, but rarely did they ever come across the remains of Saint Emperors. Many of them had vanished, so they thought that Mo Tianyun had refined them through a huge formation. Looks like all the remains were hidden away instead. Who hid these remains? Was it Mo Tianyun? The ancestors of my clan were once confused about why Mo Tianyun created a place like this. It looks like Mo Tianyun did not just make this place for the saint's fruit. There's other secrets that we don't know about. Various discussions arose in the surroundings. The protector clans as well as some of the ancient clans knew many secrets regarding the death nest. All of them said whatever they knew, coupled with a few conjectures from other people. All of them immediately thought of a lot of things. The appearance of the giant skeleton had temporarily attracted everyone's attention. They had stopped fighting while many of them focused on the skeleton. At this moment the blood-red skeleton moved. It extended one of its bony arms, and an endless amount of baleful force immediately radiated from its bare bones. As a dense red mist, it rolled toward everyone. Before the mist had even approached them, all the Saint Kings felt like their heads were splitting open, as a stabbing pain appeared in their souls. At that moment, all of them seemed to lose control of their souls. All their souls wanted to fly out of their heads and fly over to the baleful force. All the Saint Kings were extremely shocked. The baleful force was just too terrifying. Even with their powerful souls, they struggled to withstand it. All the Saint Kings dared not stay any longer. They all retreated quickly, as if they had seen a ghost. They all became filled with dread because of the baleful Yin force. Jian Chen's soul was affected just like the other Saint Kings. But two powerful lights of violet and azure erupted in his sea of consciousness soon afterward. The sword spirits used their own strength to protect Jian Chen's soul. A bead appeared above Hong Lian and Heiyu. It lit up with a hazy glow which protected their souls, allowing them to remain unaffected by the baleful Yin force. The 5 old men from Mercenary City also stopped casting their secret technique. They quickly retreated like everyone. They were exhausted, so they avoided the advancing baleful Yin force. It's a pity that using that secret technique consumes far too much energy. We don't have anything left to try other things with it, or we could try destroying that skeleton with the technique. One of them became dejected within. He felt rather helpless and regretful. Mo Tianyun's figure vanished after it lost their support, and Rui Jin recovered his freedom. A golden light flickered on him as he loudly roared at the sky. The roar was filled with anger, but just when he wanted to charge at the 5 old men, his face suddenly hardened. He also discovered the change in the situation. Rui Jin, let's leave here quickly. That skeleton is very troublesome. Hong Lian's voice rang in Rui Jin's head. Hong Lian had assumed a human form already. Chapter 1161. An existence beyond Saint Emperor. The clouds of baleful Yin force quickly rolled toward everyone. They reached where they were standing very soon. Rui Jin had just broken free, so he had not started to run. The baleful Yin force was extremely close to him already, less than 100 meters away, and the distance was rapidly decreasing. Rui Jin's face abruptly changed. The baleful Yin force had yet to enter his soul, but his soul was already feeling a violent stabbing pain. He also felt extremely dizzy. The baleful Yin force was so powerful that even Rui Jin struggled to endure it. Rui Jin became extremely stern. He was filled with shock. As a golden divine dragon, he was the king of dragons. He possessed a natural advantage of an extremely powerful body and soul. The baleful Yin force had not even reached him, yet it was already affecting his soul this much. He found this difficult to accept. The origin energy bead appeared above his head and shined with a hazy light, coating his body. It protected his soul, and with its assistance, the discomfort of his soul was immediately purged. The bead was a treasure that could block all attacks targeting the soul. The baleful Yin force was powerful, but clearly it was not enough to break through the treasure's defenses. Rui Jin's eyes flickered with a golden light. He stared at the huge skeleton hidden within the baleful Yin force before quickly arriving in front of Jian Chen. He stood with Hong Lian and Heiyu. "What's up with this skeleton?" Rui Jin gruffly asked. He had been trapped in Mo Tianyun's hand earlier, isolating him from the outside world. As a result, he had no idea what had just happened. It appeared suddenly. No one knows why, but it's an enemy, Hong Lian explained in a heavy voice. The baleful Yin force is very terrifying. No one among the humans can withstand it. If they get caught in it, they'll die for sure. We better leave here quickly before anyone notices. I suddenly feel like the death nest is much more complicated than it seems, Heiyu said with a frown. He was stern. All the human Saint Kings were rapidly retreating. They avoided the baleful Yin force. The horror of the baleful Yin force had scared many people witless, and only a few of them were still thinking about the saint's fruit. "Xianger, we can't stay here. Let's leave quickly." Changyang Qingyan suddenly appeared by Jian Chen's side and warmly spoke in concern. Jian Chen frowned slightly as a sliver of undetectable coldness flashed through his eyes. He did not pay any attention to Changyang Qingyan, directly ignoring him. Changyang Qingyan had used the time when he was removing Huang Luan's ancient secret technique to plant another one of his own. His actions made Jian Chen extremely furious inside, and he had already begun to treat Changyang Qingyan as an enemy. "Let's go." Rui Jin growled before grabbing Jian Chen's arm and retreating to the outskirts. The baleful Yin force spread very quickly, but it was still slower than the speed at which the Saint Kings could fly. With their retreat, they immediately pulled far away from the baleful Yin force. They were just about to leave the third zone of the death nest. At this moment, the blood-red skeleton roared at the sky. There was no sound, but a visible ripple expanded into the surroundings. Every single bone on its body churned with endless amounts of baleful force, actually causing the mist to clump together. It seemed to have become a sea of blood. Copious amounts of baleful force surged into the ground, causing the blood-red soil to become even brighter. At the same time, the ground began to shine with a faint red glow. The third layer of formations in the death nest was originally only used to separate the vile energies between the two zones. It could not obstruct the entry and exit of people, but it was suddenly activated at that moment. It formed a layer of red mist that surrounded the third zone, preventing any human experts from leaving. How is this possible? The skeleton can actually control the formations here. Weren't they cast down by Emotianyan all those years ago? How can it control them at will? Looks like this skeleton has already developed a basic form of intelligence. It is much more complex than it seems. It's using baleful yin force to activate these formations, or maybe using the formations to allow the baleful yin force to gain another wondrous effect. We can't leave. Everyone worked together to smash the formation together. Many Saint Kings immediately launched powerful attacks at the formation. However, it had been cast down by Emotianyan all those years ago. Even after countless years, it remained as powerful as before. It was not something a group of Saint Kings could smash through, so the formation did not even budge no matter how hard they struck it. Rui Jin, Hong Lian, and Heiyu struck out as well. They used their origin energy treasures to attack the formation in unison, but their attacks only made it shake. It was not enough to break through. The ground shook constantly as the skeleton approached them all, step by step. Its feet were like mountains, and every time a foot fell, the ground would violently shake. The dense baleful force would roll over from in front, getting nearer and nearer to all of them. All the humans fell into a panic. The baleful force was basically the Grim Reaper's scythe to them. It could ignore any Saint Force defenses and injure the souls of people. Even though many of them knew ancient secret techniques, they possessed no methods of dealing with the baleful force. Are we all really going to die today? Someone wailed. He could already taste regret. God damn it, how did this skeleton appear here? Why has it never appeared in countless years? And why does it have to suddenly appear in this age, when there is a lack of Saint Emperors? Some experts of the Protector clans were confused and filled with questions. The appearance of the skeleton had become a mystery to all of them. Jianchen also became unprecedentedly grim. He stared at the blood-red mist up ahead and said, "These people can't all die here. The Tian Yuan continent cannot sustain a loss like this. Seniors, are you able to destroy this skeleton? The baleful force does not affect us, so we can try," said Rui Jin. Afterward, he went up with Hong Lian and Heiyu to fight the skeleton together. But the power of the skeleton was far beyond anyone's expectations. The three of them attacked the skeleton using their origin energy weapons, but all that was left behind was a shallow mark. The attacks that were powerful enough to harm Saint Emperors could not even break one of the skeleton's bones. At this moment, a red light flashed by. A huge bone club had appeared in the skeleton's hands at some point, sweeping toward Rui Jin and the others. Bang! 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 With three muffled sounds, the three of them were blown away by the skeleton's swing. Their origin energy armor had dulled as well. All the experts present became utterly stunned by what had just happened. All of their mouths hung agape as disbelief flooded their faces. They understood the three magical beasts' strength extremely well. They possessed the power to rival Saint Emperors, yet they could not even withstand a single blow from the skeleton. It's beyond a Saint Emperor. The skeleton already possesses strength at the level of the four champions from ancient times. A great elder of a Protector clan cried out. His voice trembled as horror filled him. With that, everyone paled. Despair filled all of their eyes. Chapter 1162. A Mysterious Expert. 1. Rui Jin, Hong Lian, and Heiyu returned to Jianchen's side with sunken faces. Their expressions were rather pale. Although they had been protected by their origin energy armor, the blood-red skeleton was just far too powerful, so they had still suffered some light injuries. This skeleton possesses a strength beyond Saint Emperor. Even the three of us cannot stop it. If we end up in a long battle with it, we'll end up heavily injured, Rui Jin said in a heavy tone of voice. All the Saint Kings heard what Rui Jin had said, and they all became extremely grim. They all knew that the trio were Saint Kings at great perfection, but their real strength belonged to the level of a Saint Emperor. They were the most powerful present, so if they could not deal with the skeleton, no one could. Beyond Saint Emperor. Beyond Saint Emperor. Legend has it that the strength beyond Saint Emperor belongs to a whole different level. The difference that exists between it and Saint Emperor is as wide as a chasm. It's completely impossible to make up for, because it's power that belongs to a different level. A great elder of a protector clan said with a trembling voice. Death and despair filled his eyes. Saint Emperors were like ants before those who had surpassed Saint Emperor, let alone them who were nowhere near Saint Emperor. The way out has already been sealed up by this skeleton. We're all going to die here today. My clan still needs my protection. Without us, my enemy clans definitely won't let them off. Looks like my clan will be in for a disaster. It doesn't matter if I die. What does matter is that the Tianyuan continent still requires our protection, or we won't have enough power to fend off the invasions of the Beast God continent and 100 races. Everyone sighed in despair. Many of them were filled with an unwillingness to just die here like this. During this period of time, Jianchen had also let out the white tiger. But to his dismay, the tiger's ability to ignore formations and barriers were completely useful here. It could no longer pass through them like before. At this moment, Jianchen thought of what Tai Ta had said in the past. His mysteries of war could break through the limitations of space, so he hesitated to try out Tai Ta's method or not, to see if his mysteries of war could take them all out. Just as Jianchen wanted to release Tai Ta, the entire death nest shook violently. With a great boom, the formation around the third zone shook violently, vaguely showing signs of shattering. Afterward, a second and third boom rang out close after each other. They caused the formation to shake more and more violently. Then it actually cracked open to everyone's disbelief. A 10-meter-wide crack appeared. At this moment, the baleful Yin force was already less than 1,000 meters away from them. Once they were caught by the blood-red mist, even they, Saint Kings, would not be able to survive, as it was countless times more terrifying than what Houston could control. Run! Someone roared from the crowd, and the mighty Saint Kings all fled outside as fast as they could. At this moment, the only thing they all thought about was fleeing. They never bothered to consider how the crack had appeared. The blood-red skeleton became utterly enraged and roared angrily. It quickly charged after all the people as it swung its bone club. The moment the club fell, it became several thousand meters long, smashing the Saint King at the very back to pieces. Even his soul failed to escape, shaken to parts by the terrifying force. The skeleton swung its club again. The scarlet bone became enveloped by a dense layer of baleful Yin force, and fell with lightning speed. It loomed over around a dozen Saint Kings. Suddenly, a resplendent streak of light appeared. It illuminated the space, and purged the endless amounts of Yin Qi and grudges of the dead in the death nest. It shot over with unbelievable speed. It was an extremely terrifying blade of light, shaped like a crescent moon. It shined with blinding light, and it seemed to break through the limitations of space. It was still very far away, but the next moment, it had already swept over the heads of all the Saint Kings with sharp blade qi. It struck the bone club with an unstoppable, domineering force. Boom! As soon as the blade of light clashed with the bone club, a deafening boom erupted. Powerful ripples of energy wreaked havoc within the death nest as terrifying storms caused all the Saint Kings to stumble and lose their balance. The club had been blocked by the blade of light, saving the lives of over 10 Saint Kings. The skeleton also stumbled a few steps back as its body shook. A terrifying crack had appeared on the huge bone club in its hands. All the Saint Kings had left the third zone by now. They arrived in the second zone, but none of them continued on. Instead, they could not help but stop and stare in the direction of the skeleton and blade of light in shock. Who was it who secretly attacked? He can actually deal such a powerful attack to deal with the frightening skeleton. If I've seen correctly, that flash of white light before was a huge blade of light. Who was the one responsible for that? This is a power that surpasses Saint Emperor. The senior who delivered that blade of light before must have stepped into that supreme domain. Impossible. Does that mean that there are still experts like that among us humans? That's definitely impossible. There were the 4 champions during the ancient times, but a 5th one has never appeared on our continent. Was it a sovereign-like figure of the Arctic ice goddess Hall who secretly interfered? Yes, it must be someone from the mysterious ice goddess Hall. They may have never interfered with the matters of the continent, but they must have been unwilling to see so many experts of the Tianyuan continent die here. I don't believe it's the ice goddess Hall. They don't have a sovereign-like existence. It must be the sea goddess who's done it, as she's the only one still alive out of the 4 ancient champions. A hubbub broke out among the people. Someone who had surpassed Saint Emperor had actually helped them out in secret when they were utterly doomed. This was an inspiring piece of information, filling everyone with emotion. It offered a path of escape to all of them, giving them new hope. The blood-red skeleton became even more angered. Baleful force churned violently and was endlessly poured into the ground. Immediately, streaks of blinding, red light radiated from the ground. They crisscrossed and wove together. It was actually a formation hidden beneath the ground, which had been activated by the skeleton's baleful force, allowing it to appear. The formation was activated, and the endless amounts of vile energies in the 3rd zone seemed to be affected. They all began to bubble violently in the air, and, under everyone's disbelief, the Chi fused with the grudges formed a cloud of blood-red baleful force. I finally understand. The baleful force must have been created from the fusion between the 2 vile energies. Everything's due to the formation under the ground. The 2 energies only fuse when the formation is activated. The death nest was created by Emotianyan all those years ago. Does that mean he left behind the formation in the ground as well? Why did he do something like that? Many people reached a conclusion, but they soon became even more confused. They all felt curious as to why Emotianyan had created a place like this. The saint's fruit definitely was not the main reason. Perhaps it was only a pretense. The 2 energies fused together and formed even more baleful force. The fusion had virtually drained all the vile energies in the 3rd zone, with only a cloud of blood-red mist churning about. Soon afterward, the baleful force formed a huge, terrifying, and ferocious ghost's face that charged toward all of the Saint Kings with brandished claws and teeth. With a flash of blinding light, the resplendent blade of light appeared once again. Filled with a domineering force, it flew over from the 1st zone and struck the dense cloud of baleful force. The collision of the 2 actually knocked back the mist that all the Saint Kings feared. The blade of light continued on without weakening at all, slicing through the mist and landing on the skeleton. Boom! With a deafening sound, a slash that was several dozen meters in length appeared on the skeleton. Some of its tough bones had been cleaved in half by the attack, as it stumbled backward with its huge body. It only managed to stabilize itself after taking around a dozen steps back. The Saint Kings in the 2nd zone all became stunned. Just a long-range blade of light was enough to force back the skeleton that had surpassed Saint Emperor. Just how powerful was that person? An existence like that had exceeded everyone's imagination. Some of them even refused to believe that there was such a terrifying expert hiding in the world. Rui Jin, Hong Lian, and He Yu all became shocked as well. They could obviously feel how terrifying the blade of light was. Even with their origin energy weapons, they could not deal attacks on that level. He's truly surpassed Saint Emperor. I wonder who he is, Rui Jin gruffly said. Chapter 1163. A Mysteries Expert 2. The blood-red skeleton that had frightened countless Saint Kings in the death nest was blocked by a mysterious expert. Although this expert never revealed himself, everyone knew just how terrifying he was. He was able to stop the skeleton that possessed strength beyond Saint Emperor from afar, without even appearing. The skeleton was extremely angry. The dense baleful force around it violently churned, surging out time and time again. However, it was forced back by a blade of light that even the skeleton itself could not block. More and more cracks appeared on its body, and a few bones were even broken. A few resplendent blades of light swept past, and forced the surrounding yin qi and grudges of the dead to the sides. Slivers of domineering and terrifying blade qi remained there, actually causing the path paved between the vile energies to remain temporarily. Many people moved at this moment. Many Saint Kings had already begun traveling in the direction the blades of light originated from, wanting to see just who the mysterious expert was. Their movement immediately spurred on everyone else present. They immediately shot off in the same direction with lightning speed. The identity of this mysterious expert weighed on many people's minds. Jian Chen and the others were not exceptions either. They all followed the group in the direction of the blades of light. They passed through the second zone with lightning-like speed and arrived in the first. As soon as they made it there, everyone immediately jumped. A suffocatingly powerful blade qi filled the entire space. The blade qi seemed to have infected the air, making the air there feel sharp. A blinding white light stood over 10 kilometers in front of them. It was as dazzling as the sun, illuminating the entire first zone of the death nest. It was endless amounts of blade qi. The white light was completely formed from mighty blade qi, and looking closely, it was not difficult to discover that the light seemed like a huge blade. It was 100 meters tall. "It's a bald," someone murmured in amazement. In that moment, everyone focused their attention on the blade. It was just a pity that the blade was covered by blade qi, so it was blurry and unclear. The great elders of the Tyrant's Blade School stared at the blade's figure without blinking at all. A gleam of light flashed through their eyes as doubt and surprise crossed their faces. At this moment, the blade qi that filled the entire first zone quickly weakened. The white light also quickly darkened, and in just a few seconds, the figure of the giant blade suddenly disappeared. It returned peace to the death nest. What's up with this blade? Was it secretly controlled by a sovereign-like figure? Or was it all because of formations? In my opinion, it's extremely likely that this was from formations. It's definitely what Mo Tianyun left behind all those years ago. A few Saint Kings immediately began making guesses. Some people believed that there was a great person secretly behind the blade, while others were certain it came from a formation, something Mo Tianyun had set up all those years ago. The ground began to shake. The blood-red skeleton had passed through the formation and was pursuing them. The blood-red mist around it surged into the sky, and the baleful yin force it radiated was even denser than before. The Saint Kings no longer dared to stay any longer now that the blade had disappeared. They left as quickly as they could. As soon as Jian Chen's group flew out of the death nest, Rui Jin began constructing a space gate. However, as soon as it formed, several terrifying attacks flew in from all directions, shattering the gate. "Hand over the saint's fruit, or you won't be leaving here," a great elder from a protector clan called out. His presence quickly skyrocketed. He seemed like a whole different person when he fled earlier. Without the threat of the blood-red skeleton, everyone focused their attention of the saint's fruit again. Over 200 Saint Kings surrounded Jian Chen and the others. The atmosphere became utterly nerve-wracking. The great elders of the Changyang clan stood to one side with ugly expressions. They were extremely worried, but they did not stand up and help Jian Chen. "World of Feathers!" Suddenly, Hong Lian cried out. The armor on her began to disassemble once more, turning into countless phoenix feathers to form a huge cage around them. Every single feather burned with intense white flames, preventing the Saint Kings from approaching them. "If you want the saint's fruit, then use everything you have," a Saint King cried out. Many Saint Kings stepped forward and used various Saint tier battle skills and powerful ancient secret techniques to barrage the world of feathers. The temperature within the feathers was extremely hot as well. Even the space distorted slightly. Hong Lian did everything she could to maintain the defense as she said, "Rui Jin, quickly create a space gate. The battle skills and secret techniques these people know are too powerful. They're not much weaker than the Saint Emperor Vengeful Spirits, so I can't last too long. The space in here is affected by the flames. It's become very unstable, so creating a space gate will be rather difficult. I'll try my best," said Rui Jin before swinging his hand. The space in front of him immediately split open, but the space gate did not form as quickly this time. Rui Jin's arm was extended in the crack. The profound truths of the world were present on his hand. He was using a Saint King's ability to create space gates. Outside the feathers, a 100-meter-long hand suddenly fell from the sky. With a deafening boom, the hand viciously struck the feathers, causing them all to tremble violently. Chapter 1164. The human Saint Emperor appears. The sudden hand stunned all the Saint Kings who were attacking the feathers. They all raised their heads in doubt and surprise. The palm strike was extremely powerful. It was on par to an attack from Gusties. But more importantly, many Saint Kings felt an extremely powerful ripple of the mysteries of the world within it. It was at a level Saint Kings could not achieve. It's a Saint Emperor. There's a Saint Emperor who's joined us. An ancestor of an ancient clan growled. His complexion was rather horrible. He still had a sliver of a chance at obtaining the saint's fruit when he contended against the protector clans. But he had no chance at all once a Saint Emperor interfered. It's him, the Path Lord of the carnal desires. He's interested in the saint's fruit as well, a Saint King cried out. He stared at the sky with much interest. In the empty sky, a white-robed middle-aged man had already appeared as some certain time. He levitated in the air like a normal person and looked down on everything. An ill paleness was present on his evil-looking face. He was indeed the Path Lord of the carnal desires. Although he had appeared under an extremely low profile, he made people feel like he controlled the world as he hovered in the sky. Hong Lian's face changed within the feathers. She heavily said, "The human Saint Emperors come. If he works with the human Saint Kings, the feathers will be broken through in an even shorter amount of time." Ruijin said nothing. He was very stern, putting everything he had into creating a space gate. But the space within the feathers had become very unstable due to the terrifying heat. The Path Lord stared sharply at the huge ball of fire constructed from countless phoenix feathers. Afterward, he slowly raised his hand, and the surrounding energy of the world immediately began to move violently. Endless amounts of world force condensed in his hand at an unbelievable rate. Fusion of the 7 emotions, palm of severance, the Path Lord said with an extremely ordinary voice. He shot it down with that. Immediately, the vast amounts of world force condensed in his hand surged forward. It formed an invisible palm, flying toward the world of feathers with tremendous force. The surrounding energy was quickly absorbed as it flew, merging into the invisible palm, and making it even more powerful. Not only was the palm a full-powered attack from a Saint Emperor, it contained the path of carnal desires from the Path Lord. The strike collided against the feathers, but it did not manage to destroy the defense. The surging energy and world force dissipated, but an invisible ripple passed through the feathers and entered the space inside. This was the path of desires created by the Path Lord. It was not just a simple energy attack, but a special method to injure the souls. Ruijin, Heiyu, and Hong Lian were all protected by their beads, so they did not fear the Path Lord's method of attacks. Heiyu hovered above Jianshen, using the hazy light to block the attack for Jianshen. However, the space within the feathers was impacted by the attack, causing the space itself to violently shook. In other times, the shaking space would not have affected them at all. But Ruijin was currently constructing a space gate. What they feared most was unstable space. Just as the space gate was about to be completed, it suddenly collapsed and reduced Ruijin's efforts to nothing. God damn it, that bastard's actually come to make trouble right now. Once I break through to Class 9, he'll be the first one I kill. Ruijin became enraged. Killing intent bubbled around him as he became ready to kill. The Path Lord of Carnal Desire's palm strike had locked them out of the thought of leaving easily. A gleam of light immediately flashed through the eyes of the Path Lord when he saw that his palm strike actually failed to achieve the intended results. He murmured, "They sure are worthy of being Origin Energy treasures. They're actually so powerful, but maintaining the defenses must drain you heavily. I'd like to see just how long you can last. The Saint's fruit will be mine today. Probably only it can cure me of my wounds." With that, the Path Lord continued to attack the barrier of feathers. Every single strike of his possessed extremely great might, and would cause an earth-shaking commotion. Just by himself, he basically controlled all the world force in the radius of several tens of kilometers. He could use it all to deal devastating attacks with just a raise of his hand. The space within the feathers was reduced to utter chaos from the Path Lord's continuous attacks. Even with Rui Jin's strength, he could not construct a space gate. This can't continue. I've expanded too much energy. Rui Jin, hey you two pave a path of blood. We'll make them pay with blood this time. Hong Lian ground her teeth with a pale white face. Cold killing intent had appeared in her eyes. Although the three of them had heavily injured a few human experts in the death nest before, they had held back and did not slaughter them. However, the bitter resistance had already ignited her killing intent. Hong Lian, work with Heiyu to take Jianshan away. I'll go test out the human Saint Emperor, Rui Jin heavily said. His irritation for the Path Lord had reached a point of resentment as well. Hong Lian nodded before looking toward Heiyu. She asked in concern, Heiyu, can you endure it? Heiyu's situation had clearly worsened. Not only did his face turn place, even his arms has blackened. Blood flowed constantly from the corner of his lips. This poison sure is powerful. It's probably much more terrifying than the poison that's ranked first in the world. But I'm still a Saint King at great perfection. Poisoning me to death isn't that easy, Heiyu said in an extremely gruff voice. Senior Heiyu, once we get to safety, I'll immediately use by Radiant Saint Force Origin Energy to purge your poison, Jianshan said. Suddenly, the feathers collapsed in countless, huge feathers shrank back to finger length, shooting through the air as red streaks of light toward Hong Lian. Hong Lian's armor reassembled. I was right. You indeed cannot last for very long. You've finally been forced out by me. Now hand over the saint's fruit. I won't make it difficult for you. The Path Lord's voice rang out from the sky. He seemed extremely nonchalant. He knew that Rui Jin and the others were protected by Origin Energy armors, but he continued to act like victory was in his grasp. A resplendent golden sword chi was what he received as a response. Clad in the sacred dragon's armor with the treasured bead hovering above his head, Rui Jin aggressively charged over with his sacred dragon's sword. The Path Lord showed nothing, but an undetectable sliver of fear still appeared in the depths of his eyes. He dared not to take the sword chi condensed from Origin Energy head-on, so he used World Force to disperse it. Although Rui Jin possessed the Origin Energy treasures, he was not an expert of the Origin realm. All he could do was make Saint Emperors fear him. He was unable to suppress 3 Saint Emperors with supreme force like Shaoling. Rui Jin kept the Path Lord busy as Hong Lian and Heiyu conducted a slaughter beneath. This time, they did not hold back at all, and fought as hard as they could. Very soon, a few weaker Saint Kings died to their hands. They died immediately since their souls failed to escape, and around a dozen other Saint Kings were also heavily injured. However, they were either saved by companions at a crucial moment, or fled using secret techniques. The 5 old men from Mercenary City looked at each other, and a sliver of determination appeared in their eyes. One of them said, Whatever, we won't take the saint's fruit then. We're about to return to the earth soon anyway, so why not use our last bit of vitality to cast the absolute secret technique again? We can leave the fruit to someone talented in Mercenary City. Yeah, even if we die we can't die in vain, the 4 other old men agreed. At that moment, all 5 of them had made up their minds about their deaths. Chapter 1165. Gathering of 4 Saint Emperors. The 5 special old men from Mercenary City began to cast their absolutely secret technique again. Since they had consumed a lot of vitality when they had cast the technique the first time, they could be described as close to the end of their lives. They did not have much vitality left, and their lives could be extinguished at any moment. They had reached their final moments, so casting it this time was much more difficult than the first. Just the time they spent charging up was much longer than before. Jianshan killed through the crowd with Heiyu and Hong Lian. He pushed his strength at the 7th heavenly layer of Saint King to the maximum, seemingly able to challenge an 8th heavenly layer Saint King. The Saint artifact hovered above his head, blocking powerful attacks from the 9th heavenly layer of great perfection from time to time. Even though that was the case, he was covered in blood. There was his own blood, as well as his opponent's blood. He was littered with wounds, But his strength remained the same, and his presence was mighty with his tough chaotic body. Rui Jin and the Path Lord of Carnal Desire's fight was extremely intense. Both of their strengths had reached the apex, so every clash was devastating. Their battle high up the sky had gradually risen to the icy and dark outer space. Hong Lian, He Yu, and Jian Chen had already charged out of the Saint King's encirclement. At this moment, Hong Lian's armor disassembled again and turned into 100-meter-long feathers that burned with endless white flames. It formed a huge wall of fire in the air, obstructing the human Saint Kings. "I'll stop them. Hey, you leave with Jian Chen first." Hong Lian maintained the wall of fire as she turned and gave an order to He Yu. He Yu nodded and did not add anything extra. He immediately grabbed Jian Chen by the arm and flew into the distance. He wanted to find some stable space to create a space gate and leave. His condition was even more severe than before. If he did not get it under control in time, he would probably become doomed. Leave won't be that easy. At this moment, a sneer rang through the space nearby. The space several hundred meters ahead rippled slightly, and two burly men suddenly emerged. The appearance of the two people caused Jian Chen and He Yu's facial expressions to drastically change. He Yu stared at them with an ugly expression and growled, "Rulers of the Beast God continent, I never thought even you two would come." The two people were Kaiser and the Tiger Emperor, but compared to last time, they were both distinctly pale. Kaiser stared at the saint artifact above Jian Chen for a while, and a gleam of light flashed through his eyes. He sneered, "Hand over the saint's fruit, and we won't make things difficult for you." Jian Chen put the saint artifact away. The white tiger was currently hiding within it, so he needed to remove all possibilities of Kaiser stealing the saint artifact. Afterward, with a flip of his hand, a ruined divine hall appeared. It was the Octaterra Divine Hall that had been smashed to pieces by Kaiser before. The Divine Hall had always been repairing itself, but it was rather slow, so it only seemed to be in a little better shape than before. It could still withstand a few attacks from Saint Emperors, however. Looks like the lesson from the barrier spirit of Mercenary City still wasn't enough. Do you still want to suffer the same outcome as well? A sliver of fear flashed through the very depths of Kaiser and the Tiger Emperor's eyes when they heard him mention the barrier spirit. They had already developed a fearful mentality for the barrier spirit, since it was an existence that had truly surpassed Saint Emperor. However, Kaiser's eyes turned icy once again without much time. He coldly said, "We were too close to Mercenary City last time, which was why we disturbed the barrier spirit. It's very far away from Mercenary City here, so it's impossible for the barrier spirit to come here. You better give up on the thought of relying on it." The terrifying temperature from behind suddenly disappeared. Hong Lian had re-equipped the 9 refined Godfire feather mail. She was coated in terrifying white flames, as she then charged toward Kaiser as a white streak. She did not pay any attention to the human experts behind. The two Saint Emperors of the Beast God continent were far more terrifying than them, and she knew it would be very difficult to escape once they got near Jian Chen. He Yu clenched his teeth. Even though he was heavily poisoned, he had no other choice right now. All he could do was reluctantly charged up with his machete and keep the Tiger Emperor busy. A dragon's roar rang across the sky. Rui Jin had noticed the situation below as he fought against the Path Lord, and immediately abandoned his opponent to return. He shot through the sky as a dazzling golden streak of light, just like a comet. He quickly made his way to the ground. "Golden Divine Dragon, our battle is still not over." The Path Lord also used his Saint Emperor abilities, moving faster than Rui Jin. He first blocked Rui Jin before striking with a hand full of vast energy. He stopped Rui Jin from providing assistance. "Path Lord, you're actually working with the experts of the Beast God continent." Rui Jin immediately understood the truth behind the matter with some thought. His face became extremely dark. The Path Lord said nothing. He used everything he had as a Saint Emperor to keep Rui Jin busy. They went back to outer space, and neither of them could overcome the other. Jian Chen did not pay attention to the battles of Rui Jin, Hong Lian, and He Yu. He immediately used the illusory flash, flying off into the distance as fast as he could. He could only depend on himself now. Kaiser and the Tiger Emperor sneered at the same time, as they watched Jianchen leave. Kaiser steadily questioned, Sangqiong, you're still not going to start moving? The sooner you take it, the sooner we can get back. Another figure appeared in the empty air. It was a white-clothed old man whose silver hair danced in the wind. He possessed an otherworldly charm, and seemed to possess the presence of an immortal. The third Saint Emperor of the Beast God continent had come to the Tianyuan continent as well. With all three of them present, only the greatest powers of the 10 protector clans could stop them. All the human experts' expressions changed, becoming ashen. All three Saint Emperors of the Beast God continent had gathered here, and the human Saint Emperor had switched sides, working with them to steal the Saint's fruit. What other power did they have to face them? Is the Saint's fruit going to end up with the magical beasts this time? A feeling of powerlessness engulfed many Saint Kings from the protector clans and the ancient clans, coupled with a deep disgrace. The Saint's fruit was a sacred item of the humans, and it had always been consumed by humans since ancient times. It had never been taken away by magical beasts. It would become an unredeemable disgrace etched into history if the Saint's fruit ended up with the magical beasts. Sangqiong levitated in the sky as he looked at Jianchen's back. A gleam of light flickered in his eyes as he hesitated. The Saint's fruit has actually been obtained by him. He's the person who's looked after the winged tiger god for so many years. He's the winged tiger god's savior. So do I lay my hands on him or not? Do I let him take the fruit and let him reach Saint Emperor? Or do I take the fruit so that Kaiser and the Tiger Emperor can heal up? At this moment, a vast presence appeared far away. It was as powerful as a Saint Emperor's, and actually momentarily drew the attention of the 3 Beast God continent experts. After charging up for so long, the 5 old men from Mercenary City finally used the absolutely secret technique again. The 5 of them poured their strength together and used their remaining vital energies to conjure Mo Tianyun's image. The Saint's fruit is a sacred item of the humans. It can be taken by any human, but it can never end up with outsiders, the 5 old men said in unison. Afterward, Mo Tianyun extended his hand and expanded to be 3,000 meters long. He grabbed at Sangqiong, and as the hand fell, it actually froze the space there, preventing Sangqiong from running away. He ended up being trapped by the giant hand. Booms constantly rang from the giant hand. Sangqiong was currently attacking with everything he had in an attempt to break through the hand. The 5 old men trembled violently. They became extremely pale. The secret technique was supported by their vital energies, so it was equivalent to siphoning away their lives. It had already been very difficult for the 5 of them to cast the secret technique a second time in their current conditions, so they had literally put their lives on the line. They could not last for very long. Do it! At the same time, the great elders of the Changyang clan secretly communicated with each other. They formed seals with their hands at the same time, and used an ancient secret technique. Borrowing from the forces of the world locus reversal, they called out at the same time. Suddenly they disappeared, having moved to another location through the ancient secret technique. They had switched positions with the rock beside Jianchen, arriving by his side instantaneously. Don't resist. Relax. Changyang Zuxiao spoke in a stern voice. They formed hand seals again, and used the locus reversal a second time. This time, they traveled several dozen kilometers, appearing in a region of empty land with Jianchen. The people of the Changyang clan had escaped with the saint's fruit. The other humans all reacted by crying out. They quickly pursued. Changyang Qingyun glanced past the people pursuing them and heavily said, "The space here is unstable, so it's very difficult to create a space gate. Let's go." The other great elders did not hesitate at all, immediately leaving the area as quickly as possible with Jianchen. God damn it, how did it end up like this? Kaiser and the Tiger Emperor could not help but swear. They were extremely irritated. Originally, they had thought everything would be flawless, but never did they think that Sangqiong would end up trapped, allowing Jianchen to flee with the saint's fruit. Little Phoenix, you're much stronger than before, but still not enough to injure me. I have matters to attend to today, so I'll fight with you some other day, Kaiser growled. He wanted to go chase Jianchen. However, Hong Lian immediately sent the scorching godfire hairpin at Kaiser with terrifying white flames, forcing him to face it seriously. He had no time to chase Jianshen. Before we decide victory today, you won't be leaving, Hong Lian coldly said. Her attacks became more intense before pinning Kaiser down. He Yu was the same, using everything he had to keep the Tiger Emperor busy and prevent him from leaving. Although the Path Lord and Rui Jin fought an intense battle in outer space, they always paid attention to what was happening below. Seeing how Jianshen had actually fled with the Saint's fruit, the Path Lord immediately panicked. He no longer bothered with Rui Jin, wanting to pursue Jianshen. Human Saint Emperor, our battle is still not over. With a golden flash of light, Rui Jin slashed across the top of the Path Lord's head while he was distracted. He cut through some hair, almost injuring the Path Lord. The Path Lord was flustered and exasperated. His face was pale white. He had said the same thing to Rui Jin just before. He did not think that the same line would be thrown back to him so quickly. Chapter 1166. Returning to the Protector Clan. 1. Jianshen was carried along by the great elders of the Changyang clan, flying into the distance as quickly as they could. The great elders had all reached Saint King many years ago, so their grasp over space was much more powerful than Jianshen's. At full speed, they were much faster than Jianshen, even when he used the illusory flash. At this moment, all of them were stern. They only bothered to travel toward a faraway region of space that was stable. They knew that they had basically become everyone's enemy by taking Jianshen away like this. They were great elders of a protector clan and possessed exalted statuses, but no one worried about their identities when the saint's fruit was on the line. There were no saint kings that could resist the temptation of reaching Saint Emperor. As long as they became saint emperors, they had no need to fear the protector clans, so they obviously had no need to be afraid of offending them. A large group of human experts pursued from close behind. The people who knew the effects of the saint's fruit were affected in particular, having become green with greed. Some of them used secret techniques to travel faster, so they rapidly drew closer to Jianshen and the others. Hong Lian, He Yu, and Rui Jin all kept a Saint Emperor busy each. They prevented the Saint Emperors from interfering with Jianshen's escape, and they were in no shape to consider anything else. Borrowing from the forces of the world, locus reversal. The great elders of the Changyang clan used the secret technique again, and traversed over 100 kilometers. Afterward, they continued to flee with Jianshen. It was very taxing to use the secret technique, let alone the fact that they had to bring an additional person along. As a result, they could not use it continuously even with their strength, requiring a time to buffer. The two parties, where one ran and the other pursued, traveled for 1,000 kilometers before finally arriving in a region of space that was relatively more stable. Changyang Qingyin immediately constructed a space gate. At the same time, over 10 balls of surging energy and sword chi shot over from behind with lightning-like speed. Every single attack possessed devastating power. They were all attacks from Saint Kings at great perfection, some from protector clans and others from ancient clans or independent cultivators. The violent attacks surged toward the space gate with unstoppable forces. Wherever they passed, the space would violently shake, as if it were about to shatter. The affected space impacted Changyang Qingyin while he was creating a space gate as well, because the space there became rather unstable. Go quick, Changyang Qingyin growled. His voice was filled with worry. All the great elders became extremely stern. Without any hesitation, they entered the space gate with Jianshen as fast as they could. The space gate disappeared instantly after they had all entered it. The space there had also returned to how it was, and soon afterward, all the attacks landed on that region of space. It caused the space there to shatter, and the surrounding radius of several thousand meters to violently tremble. Damn it, those bastards from the Changyang clan. We actually let them get away. I never thought that the saint's fruit would end up with the Changyang clan in the end. Looks like another saint emperor will appear on our Tianyuan continent soon. It's just a pity that he's not a member of our clan, but the Changyang clans. Sigh. It only appears after 40,000 years, something many of our ancestors have missed purely because of luck. I've missed it just like this. What a pity, what a pity. It's all because of those 3 vagrant magical beasts that don't belong to the beast god continent. If they didn't do everything they did to protect Jianshan, how would the fruit have ended up with the Changyang clan? Now they've done it. Not only do they have an unprecedented prodigy, they have an exceptional relationship with the winged tiger god. Coupled with a saint emperor in the future, is there still anyone on the Tianyuan continent that can stop them? All the experts broke into discussion. Regret and dejection crossed the faces of many, while the experts from the protector clans appeared worried as well. The Changyang clan was now far more powerful than what they could imagine. None of them wished for a protector clan to be more powerful than themselves. Boom! 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 Several violent sounds rang out as violent energy splattered in all directions. The space shook heavily after being struck while the supreme presence of Saint Emperors filled the surroundings. It was enough to cause the ground to shake from the presences alone. Sangqiong stood proudly in the sky as he radiated with a supreme presence. He stood like he was a king looking down on his people. He had broken out of the secret technique from the 5 old men of Mercenary City with his supreme strength. His tremendous presence had directly crushed and collapsed Mo Tianyun's figure. The 5 old men violently jerked, and a mouthful of blood shot out at the same time. The blood scattered into the air as mist, and they instantly became extremely pale. They were all haggard, and the light in the eyes of 4 of them quickly vanished, becoming dull. They collapsed to the ground. Only one of them managed to stay standing with much difficulty. The last old man stared fixedly at Sangqiong, who had broken free. He powerlessly said, "It's a pity that the 5 of us have already reached the end of our lives. Otherwise. Before he could finish speaking, the light in his eyes faded rapidly as well. He had departed the world full of unwillingness and regret. Tianjian and the elders of Mercenary City stood silently from afar as they looked at the 5 ice-cold corpses of the old men. All of their faces had darkened in sorrow. They did not stop the 5 old men, because they knew they did not have much time left. Even if they did not die here today, they would pass away in meditation in Mercenary City. The death of the 5 veterans has allowed the Tianyuan continent to keep the saints' fruit. They laid down their lives for a noble cause. They died spectacularly in battle, and did not pass away silently in Mercenary City, Tianjian heavily said. Sangqiong slowly withdrew his supreme presence. He looked around nonchalantly and said, "The saint's fruit has already been taken away, and its whereabouts are unknown. It's about time I returned." Although he had spoken very ordinarily, his voice echoed through the surroundings, allowing everyone to hear it clearly. "Note, Sangqing, we must obtain the saint's fruit. You are the fastest in the world. You should be able to catch them." Langkiros refused to give up. However, before he could finish speaking, Sangqiong had already shot off into the distance as a faint blur. He seemed to have fused with space completely, moving through it silently. His speed was unbelievable, disappearing in an instant. To no surprise, he headed to the beast god continent. "Sangqiong!" The Tiger Emperor angrily roared. He was extremely unwilling to give up, and even Kaiser's complexion became extremely dark. "Let's go." Kaiser ordered a retreat as he ground his teeth. He immediately abandoned his opponent with Langkiros and left. This time, Hong Lian and He Yu did not stick to them desperately. They allowed him to leave, before heading to Rue Jin together. The Path Lord raised an eyebrow and said, "Golden Divine Dragon, our battle ends here. Farewell." With that, he was about to leave. "Leaving won't be that easy," Rue Jin icily exclaimed. His killing intent was sharp as his sword shone brightly with golden light. He clung onto the Path Lord tightly. "Scorching purgatory!" Hong Lian cried out from afar. She had already arrived, and the large swathes of white flames had already surged from the scorching godfire hairpin, filling the region of outer space. It formed a huge fireball, enveloping both Rue Jin and the Path Lord. The terrifying temperature caused the space there to violently ripple. Even with the Path Lord's grasp over the mysteries of the world, which were far more profound than any Saint King's understanding, he was unable to use any spatial abilities to flee. Afterward, the hairpin flew into the fireball and shot toward the Path Lord. At the same time, Heiyu rushed in with his origin energy armor as well. He shot a blade of light from his machete toward the Path Lord. Chapter 1167. Returning to the Protector Clan 2. The Path Lord of Carnal Desire's expression suddenly changed. He was still injured, having not yet recovered from the wounds caused by the barrier spirits of Mercenary City. He could temporarily protect himself as he fought against Rui Jin in this current state, but he had no confidence in being able to retreat when faced with attacks from all three of them. What pained him the most was the fact that all three of them were protected by origin energy armor. It was very difficult for him to harm them with his power as a Saint Emperor, while his famed techniques were ineffective due to the pearl that protected the soul. Their weapons also contained origin energy, something that only those beyond Saint Emperor could control. It was energy that belonged to a whole different domain, so even Saint Emperors found it difficult to withstand injuries caused by origin energy. The Path Lord became extremely grim. He collected the surrounding energy of the world with his abilities as a Saint Emperor, and struck at the three of them with 3 palm strikes. Each strike was filled with extremely violent power, and they even contained a Saint Emperor's mysteries of the world. Even Saint Kings at great perfection would become as weak as ants before this great power. It was not something they could withstand at all. Rui Jin, Hong Lian, and Heiyu showed no fear as they aggressively attacked the Path Lord. Before their origin energy weapons, the attacks were nothing. They collapsed the palm strikes using their weapons, before continuing without slowing down, striking at the Path Lord with their origin energy weapons, as they emitted a bright light. The three of them utterly hated the Path Lord, so they used everything they had. The origin energy weapons were swung as they stood in a triangle, where their vast presences caused space to freeze up. They locked tightly onto the Path Lord's presence. The Path Lord struggled to remain as composed as before. He suddenly roared, "Do you really think that I'm easy to be trifled with?" A vast and surging storm of energy erupted from his body, forming a whirlwind of energy that wreaked havoc in all directions. It caused space to shake and crack open everywhere. Extremely pure and powerful energy had condensed in both his hands. He avoided the furious Rui Jin and Hong Lian, charging toward Heiyuan of his own accord. One of his hands seemed to have fused with the surrounding space, sweeping through the air with a string of illusionary afterimages. It seemed slow, yet it struck Heiyu's machete extremely swiftly. His hand did not come in contact with the machete, but the energy in his hand slammed into the side of the blade. It knocked the machete out of Heiyu's hand and caused Heiyu's arm to become numb. The Path Lord's other hand also struck Heiyu's chest with lightning-like speed after knocking away the blade. The energy in his hand erupted, blowing Heiyu far away. Heiyu's armor flickered in color, blocking the force behind the palm strike. The Path Lord immediately charged through the opened. He knew that it was very difficult for him to injure the three of them, so there would be no benefits to gain if he continued fighting while heavily injured. At this moment, a terrifying wave of heat swept over from behind. The scorching godfire hairpin had shot over extremely quickly. It had basically reached the Path Lord's back already. The Path Lord had already run out of time to dodge. He turned around and hurriedly launched an attack with his hand, using the energy in the surroundings to block the attack. However, the Path Lord's palm strike was hurried. It lacked power, so the hairpin flew through it like a knife through hot butter, flying for the Path Lord's face. The Path Lord's eyes narrowed, and with a wave of his hand, a divine hall immediately flew out from his space ring. It became the size of a house in an instant, standing before him. The hairpin struck the divine hall, and erupted with a deafening boom. The entire divine hall shook violently as cracks quickly expanded across it. At this moment, a resplendent golden light suddenly flashed behind the Path Lord's back. Rui Jin had appeared behind him at a certain moment. He gripped the sword with his right hand as he maintained a seal with his left. The sword stabbed toward the Path Lord as a streak of light. The Path Lord was shocked when he sensed what was happening behind him. Rui Jin had appeared too suddenly, and even he had failed to sense his movement. He praised inside. The various abilities and secret techniques of the Dragon Clan really are profound. Even as he thought that, he responded very quickly. He ignored the rippling space and instantly fused with his surroundings with his abilities as a Saint Emperor. He wanted to dodge Rui Jin's attack. Secret technique of the Dragon Clan: pin down space. At that crucial moment, Rui Jin's left hand suddenly pressed against the space there and instantly froze it, becoming as tough as rock. Caught off guard, the Path Lord was also affected. He froze up, having been pinned down. But the next moment, the Path Lord broke through the frozen space with his great strength. He had forcefully broken through Rui Jin's secret technique, but it cost him a moment. He had lost the best opportunity to dodge, so Rui Jin's sword impaled him mercilessly and appeared from his back. The Path Lord produced a deep grunt. Being impaled by a sword with origin energy in the chest was definitely a horrible feeling. It was much worse than normal injuries. Bang! The Path Lord kicked back and landed a foot on Rui Jin's chest accurately. It knocked him far away, and the sword was drawn out as well. The Path Lord's white robes had already become dyed red with blood. His face was even paler now, and his injuries were even worse than before. Die, human Saint Emperor! Hong Lian shouted. Flames surged around her as she made her way around the Divine Hall. She continued to attack the Path Lord with her hairpin in her hand as she stared at him with icy cold killing intent. The Path Lord rapidly retreated. He glanced past the three of them coldly and gritted his teeth. If I had recovered from my injuries that the barrier spirit of Mercenary City gave me, just the three of you would not be enough to injure me. However, you three are still not enough to stop me from leaving. The Path Lord backpedaled and no longer faced the three of them head-on. His two hands slowly circled around with extremely profound truths of the world. They seemed to have created some connection with the region of space, as the two resonated together. Void shatter! Suddenly the Path Lord yelled out. Immediately, extremely powerful world force shook as the space in front of him shattered. It rapidly collapsed, becoming an eternal darkness. There was only void inside. Hong Lian's face changed slightly. She knew that the Path Lord could shatter and collapse space with his Saint Emperor abilities. Entering it would mean almost certain doom, so she immediately stayed far away from it. Chapter 1168. Returning to the Protector Clan 3. The shattered space collapsed piece by piece while the affected area expanded. From afar, it looked like a huge black hole, preventing Rui Jin, Hong Lian, and Heiyu from getting anywhere close. They avoided it from afar. The Path Lord of Carnal Desires vanished behind the collapsed space, while their visibility of his was obstructed. A while later, the space began to recover slowly and finally closed up completely, but the Path Lord was nowhere to be seen. We actually let him escape, Hong Lian said, exasperated. Saint Emperors know quite a few abilities. Facing Saint Emperors with our strength is obviously not a question, but killing them will possess a certain difficulty. Though, the human Saint Emperor has suffered a strike from me. My sword impaled his chest, and he won't be able to make a full recovery from that injury in a short amount of time. We failed to kill him, but we made him pay a price, Rui Jin said. His voice was also filled with some regret. We better go find Jianchen now. He's left with the people of the Protector clans. He might be a part of them, but any connections of family or friends will become insignificant. I'm worried he'll come in danger. He's our only hope to return to our clansmen, so we can't let any accidents happen to him. Also, Heiyu's situation is getting worse. He needs to be healed with the origin energy of Radiant Saint Force. Hong Lian sternly explained the situation. Rui Jin nodded. He immediately left with Hong Lian and Heiyu, constantly casting secret techniques to search for Jianchen's whereabouts. With their departures, the remaining scattered group of Saint Kings in the air sighed before leaving as well. Many of them were filled with envy, regret, and an unwillingness to give up. Many of them had anticipated a day that they would become a Saint Emperor for a very long time, a position where they would stand at the apex and surpass the Protector clans. Now that they had just narrowly missed the Saint's fruit, they found it difficult to accept the arousal of hope and then utter despair. This was because there were not one Saint King, who was not interested in the realm of saint emperors. Once a saint king reached saint emperor, not only would it gift them with supreme power, their lives would be extended by several thousand years. The region outside the death nest became much quieter. Most of the saint kings had already left, and only a small number remained. They were unwilling to leave. When Jian Chun and the great elders emerged from the space gate, they were no longer in the original space. They had entered an independent space that had been split open. It was teeming with the energy of the world, and the scenery was charming. It was a beautiful miniature world. Jian Chun glanced around as a gleam of light flashed through his eyes. He had been here before, so he recognized the place with a single glance. It was the space inhabited by the Protector Changyang clan. Changyang Qingyan had brought them back to the Protector clan. The space was independent of the outside world, and the world gate would be tightly closed under ordinary circumstances, isolating it completely. People could only leave through a special method. Now that he was here, Jian Chun did not feel safe at all. Instead, he felt a great sense of danger, far greater than when he had been encircled by the Saint Emperor vengeful spirits. Jian Chun's heart sank, but he showed none of that on his face. He glanced at the authoritative great elders around him secretly, and discovered that they were all feeling joy and excitement from the bottom of their hearts. Jian Chun could even see burning desire and impatience in Changyang Qingyan's eyes. At this moment, Changyang Qingyan looked toward Jian Chun. Just when he wanted to speak, Jian Chun cut him off. Great elders, I'm very heavily injured, so I need to find a place to heal immediately. Otherwise, it might leave behind injuries. Jian Chun was currently bathed in blood with nothing else to be seen. Vicious gashes littered his body all over. The gashes were bone-deep and ghastly. Without his chaotic body's toughness, someone else in a similar condition as him would probably have collapsed long ago. Xiangtian, your wounds are just far too heavy. Come with us to the ancestral hall to heal first. There are medicines there that can help you recover quickly, Changyang Zhu Yinshao said in concern. I thank you for your concern, but I have medicine on me. I can deal with my wounds myself. With that, Jian Chun's face changed and blood spurted from his mouth. He weakly said, My condition is rapidly worsening. I can't delay it any longer. I need to find a place immediately, so I can go into seclusion and recover. With that, Jian Chun flew to a nearby mountain peak in a teetering fashion. He used the emperor armament to carve out a cave, and disappeared into it. Changyang Qingyun stared deeply at Jian Chun's back as he moved away. A gleam of light flickered through his eyes, and he became uneasy. However, he recovered very quickly and laughed aloud. I never thought that the saint's fruit would be obtained by our clan. This holds far too much importance for the clan. A saint emperor will appear in our Changyang clan soon. Yeah, once Xiangtian consumes the saint's fruit, he'll definitely reach saint emperor successfully with his talent. Changyang Zhu Yinshao faintly smiled. An indescribable pride was plastered on his face, and he glanced at Changyang Qingyan, perhaps out of pure coincidence. With that, Changyang Qingyan's face hardened, but it only lasted for a slight moment. He recovered in the blink of an eye and smiled faintly as well. You're right. Xiangtian's talent is unprecedented. He's achieved such great things in less than 100 years. I believe Xiangtian will break through to Saint Emperor very quickly, and become a supreme expert that can shake the world. Alright, let's end the conversation here. We've all expended a lot of energy on our trip to the Death Nest, so we better go recover quick. We need to maintain our peak conditions to repel any sneak attacks from other experts. After all, the Saint's fruit holds far too much temptation. We need to be on guard at all times. The great elders all left together, and headed to the central divine hall. Jian Chun stood within the cave with a rather dark expression. Through his presence, he had caught every single detail of the great elders' conversation, and their changes in expression. He knew exactly how they had reacted. This place is indeed not safe. Changyang Qingyan's greed for the saint's fruit is far too strong. The other great elders may not have shown it before, but who knows what they're thinking, Jian Chun thought. He had suddenly found that all the people of the Changyang clan were no longer reliable at that moment, including Changyang Zhu Shao and Changyang Zhu Yinshao. This was because the saint's fruit was just far too enticing. As the only shortcut to Saint Emperor, any connections like kinship or friendship were as fragile as rice paper. If you managed to miss that long post of mine, CSG now has a Patreon setup where you can read up to 35 chapters ahead. Chapter 1169. Amidst danger, making a full recovery as soon as possible is the most urgent matter. I need to return to my peak condition in the shortest amount of time. Only then can I deal with the dangers that come later. It's a pity that Rue Jean and the other two aren't here. Or even if the great elders really were scheming to take the saint's fruit, there's no need for me to fear so much. My strength is far from enough to contending with them, sadly. Jianshan thought inside. He set up a barrier at the entrance of the cave and entered the saint artifact to heal. In the blink of an eye, 2 days passed. Everything had been peaceful in the Changyang clan during that time. The 7 great elders all stayed in the central divine hall to recover the saint force they used in the death nest. Jianshan stayed in the artifact space for 2 days as well. He had recovered long ago with the artifact spirit's healing and was currently adjusting himself to peak condition. I can't go outside right now. If I do, it's extremely possible that they'll ask to take the fruit from me. If I don't hand it over, there'll be conflict. I still don't have the ability to hold on to the fruit with my strength. It's best if I sit here and drag it out. I hope Rue Jean and the others can make it in time. I won't have to fear the Changyang clan by then, Jianshan planned inside. He was currently in the independent space of the Changyang clan, which could be described as the safest place possible, as well as the most dangerous place possible. The place had existed for an extremely long time and possessed a wondrously powerful emperor armament. Even his divine hall and saint artifact would be useless once the emperor armament was used. The 30-meter-tall wave-breaking blade stood upright in the forbidden grounds of the Tyrant's Blade School. It hovered a meter above the ground as it glowed with a hazy light. The light consisted of no ordinary glow. They were blades of light that possessed great power. An extremely domineering presence was vaguely coiled around the blade. Gui Haidai sat atop the blade's hilt in simple robes. His entire body was surrounded by the terrifying light of the blade, but it did not harm him at all. It looked like he was being protected by the blade. A powerful and pure energy constantly surged out of the blade, before being absorbed by Gui Haidao, like a whale taking in water. His body seemed to be a bottomless pit, where no matter how much energy entered his body, it would be impossible to fill. All the energy disappeared like a rock thrown into the sea. The emperor armament of protector clans had already been established as forbidden weapons. They could not be used in ordinary times since their power were just far too great. Several saint kings working together was required just to gain rough control over one, and they would suffer from a backlash afterward, heavily injuring those saint kings. This was why the emperor armaments were terrifying. There had never been a person throughout history who cultivated by absorbing the energy of the emperor armament. Even in the glorious age of saint emperors, no one dared to do that. There was only Gui Haidao. As the emperor armament's energy was rapidly consumed, Gui Haidao's presence basically increased with every moment of time. The speed was astounding. His strength increased rapidly. He had no need to comprehend the mysteries of the world, since recovering his memories was equivalent to recovering his former cultivation level. A few figures flew over from afar before kneeling down courteously outside the forbidden grounds. They were the great elders of the Tyrant's Blade sect, and they were all gloomy and dejected. Founding ancestor, we've returned. We were useless and unable to retrieve the saint's fruit, an old man said, depressed. He felt extremely regretful. Gui Haidao slowly opened his eyes. His gaze was extremely ordinary, but within hid an extremely sharp light, like a blade. It was acute and forceful. His gazed in the direction of the death nest, as if he could see the distant place through space. That's not a problem. The saint's fruit isn't that important. It can let people reach Saint Emperor, but you still can break through without it. Gui Haidao said in an extremely simple tone. But ancestor, reaching Saint Emperor has become extremely difficult. Saint Emperors have stopped appearing in the 10 protector clans. We only have one human Saint Emperor now, and he became one by paving his own path of cultivation with his willpower. A great elder bitterly replied. Guihai Dao glanced over all of them. All of the great elders shivered inside when their founding ancestors' gaze passed by them. They all felt like that had been locked onto by an extremely sharp blade. They had actually felt dread at the bottom of their hearts. The great elders were extremely shocked as their hearts churned. They also felt even more admiration for Guihai Dao as well as more fear. They knew their founding ancestors' true strength was much greater than the realm of Saint King he had recently reached. I can let you become Saint Emperors at most in 100 years, and at least a few decades. You can all wait until that day, Guihai Dao simply replied. However, the great elders felt like they had been struck by a bolt from the blue when they heard what he said. They became filled with disbelief. Founding ancestor, all of you are dismissed. In the next few years, properly consolidate your foundations. Guihai Dao cut off the great elder. Yes, ancestor. Even though the great elders were doubtful, they dared not disobey Guihai Dao's orders. They all left courteously. After they had left, Guihai Dao focused his attention on the direction of the death nest again. He mumbled, "Just what does Mo Tianyan want to do? He's gone to great lengths to create the death nest. I must say it's earned my admiration. After 1,000,000 years of reincarnations, my wounds from the laws have finally been erased. I've understood a lot after so many reincarnations and so many lives. I have a lot benefited. So once I fully recover my strength, I'll definitely be able to reach another level. I just wonder when the 9 of them are going to awaken." CSG now has a Patreon set up, where you can read up to 35 chapters ahead. Chapter 1170. Ill motives. Jian Chun remained in the artifact space. Right now, the Changyang clan was no longer a safe place. It was extremely dangerous. Staying in it had suddenly become like a prison. He did not possess the secret technique to open the closed world gate. The Changyang clan was exceptionally quiet today. Many clansmen sealed themselves in quiet rooms to devote themselves to cultivation. The dense energy of the world quickly surged toward a few mountains' peaks, or a few residences. From afar, there were only a few younger people scattered about as they practiced martial arts, and a few people hiding in desolate places, casting battle skills against tough rock faces. An old but upright figure suddenly emerged from the central divine hall. His presence was erased, so he seemed simple just like any old man. He was one of the 7 great elders, Changyang Qingyuan. Changyang Qingyuan had appeared silently by the door. His profound eyes twinkled slightly. He first looked around before turning his attention to the mountain peak, where Jian Chun had gone into seclusion. After hesitating slightly, a determined light flickered through his eyes and he moved. He flew toward the cave with extremely great speed while remaining silent. He arrived outside the cave in the blink of an eye. He calmly gazed at the barrier Jian Chun had cast down at the entrance before smiling, as if he had just seen a joke. With a rapid movement of his hands, he used hand seals to cast a secret technique. He managed to pass through the barrier through a technique that looked like teleportation and entered the cave without triggering the barrier. After all, Jian Chen's comprehension of the mysteries of the world remained at the level of saint rulers. The barrier was basically non-existent before Changyang Qingyuan, who was at the great perfection of Saint King, and knew many secret techniques. In the slightly dim cave, the fist-sized saint artifact hovered in the air, and was alit with a faint golden light. It illuminated the cave to its dim state. Changyang Qingyuan arrived before it, and stood with his arms behind his back. He stared at it in interest and frowned slightly. He murmured to himself, "I didn't think that little bastard would be so clever, to hide in this small tower to recover. This basically removes any possibility of me getting the saint's fruit from him." Changyang Qingyuan was rather unwilling to stop there. He paced around the saint artifact as his face gradually darkened. He murmured, "This tower's extremely tough. Only saint emperors can smash through it. I can't do anything to him if he hides in there. So what should I do?" Jian Chun currently sat in a hall in the center of the artifact space. His expression was extremely ugly. The saint artifact had already accepted him as a master, so an extremely obscure connection had already developed between him and the saint artifact. He understood the situation outside extremely well through the help of the artifact's spirit, even though he was inside. Jian Chen had begun paying attention to Changyang Qingyun's every movement the moment he had entered the cave. I never thought that Changyang Qingyun would be so flustered, and that he would come to find me so quickly. I just wonder how many people are preoccupied by the saint's fruit. Jian Chen coldly wondered as his gaze became icy. If he had not hid in the artifact's space beforehand, he probably would have fallen to Changyang Qingyun's vicious means. Changyang Qingyun paced around outside for a while before finally gritting his teeth. He coldly said, "Since that damn brat's in the tower, I might as well just take the tower away. I can slowly come up with a method to open it in the future." Just as Changyang Qingyun wanted to take the saint artifact away, his expression suddenly changed. He glanced outside before arriving near a cave wall in a flash. He silently disappeared into the rock. Soon afterward, Changyang Qingjuri arrived as well. He passed through the barrier with a secret technique, just like Changyang Qingyun. He paced around the saint artifact for quite a while before his expression changed in the end. He sensed the arrival of someone, so he immediately used a secret technique to hide in the mountain. The third person was Changyang Yuanzhenghua. He knew quite a few secret techniques as well, so Jian Chen's barrier was useless against him. Seeing the floating saint artifact, he also frowned slightly. However, two powerful presences appeared outside at this moment. Changyang Zuyanshao and Changyang Zushao had come at the same time, flying to where Jian Chen was resting. However, they differed from the previous three by not concealing themselves. They flew over boldly, causing many members of the clan to raise their heads as admiration filled their faces. Changyang Yuanzhenghua was surprised. He could not leave the cave in time, so with no further choice, he did the same as Changyang Qingyun and Changyang Qingjuri. He used a secret technique to fuse into the surrounding rocks and completely erased his presence. Changyang Zushao and Changyang Zuyanshao arrived outside the cave together. They hovered 10 meters away from the entrance and stared into it. However, they did not set foot into it. "Looks like Xiangtian's still healing. I wonder when he'll make a full recovery," Changyang Zushao said with an ordinary tone. Xiangtian's a Class 7, Radiant Saint Master as well. He can control powerful Radiant Saint force, so although his wounds are very heavy, I believe he can heal them very quickly. "Great-grandfather, why don't you go rest in the ancestral hall first? I'll stay here and wait for Xiangtian to come out," said Changyang Zuyanshao. Changyang Zushao hesitated slightly before nodding. "All right. Yunshao, you stay here. I'll go back to the ancestral hall first." Changyang Zushao turned around and left while Changyang Zuyanshao stayed behind. He found a flat area to sit down. The barrier that Jian Chen had cast down stood 3 meters in front of him. Jian Chen murmured in the artifact space, "Of the 7 great elders, 3 have already tried to do something to me while I was recovering. But it's fortunate that Changyang Zuyanshao and Changyang Zushao arrived in time, or the saint artifact might have been taken away by the 3 of them. Now that Changyang Zuyanshao is personally watching over outside, the people in the cave won't dare to do anything. Did he do this because he knew the 3 of them had already entered the cave and had come to prevent them, or is it purely a coincidence? I still can't trust any of them." Jian Chen lowered his head in thought before moving. He had already silently vanished from the artifact space, reappearing in the dim cave. Now that he could no longer stay here, since it would be very easy for him to fall prey to the schemes of others, he might as well appear in front of them in a bold fashion. Perhaps he could stop them from acting out in the open, in hopes that they wouldn't lay their hands on him so easily. Jian Chen put the saint artifact away and made his way outside as if nothing had happened at all. He discovered Changyang Zuyanshao sitting outside, and a sliver of surprise immediately flashed across his face. He asked, "Great-grandfather, why are you here? Have you come looking for me because of some urgent matter?" Changyang Zuyanshao stood up and examined Jian Chen up and down. He smiled. "Xiangtian, looks like you've fully recovered from your wounds. Come with me. I just happen to have some matters I want to discuss with you." Jian Chen nodded before following Changyang Zuyanshao toward the floating piece of land. However, as they approached the divine hall at the center, Jianshan stopped. He said, "Great-grandfather, the scenery in the garden over there is quite nice. Why don't we go discuss there?" With that, Jianshan flew to the nearby garden without waiting for Changyang Zhu Yinshao to agree. Looking at Jianshan's back, Changyang Zhu Yinshao did not show any displeasure at all. Instead, he smiled slightly and softly murmured, "This kid's rather cautious." Afterward, he flew over as well. Soon after that, Changyang Zhu Shao, Changyang Yuan Wuji, and Changyang Qing Yinfeng emerged from the central divine hall as well and gathered within the garden's pavilion. "Haha, Xiangtian's done it wonderfully this time. You've actually succeeded in obtaining the saint's fruit in front of so many experts, and brought it back to the clan in perfect condition." Exactly. Xiangtian's actions this time were far too outstanding, obtaining the priceless saint's fruit for our Changyang clan. Now that we have the fruit, our clan's strength will definitely skyrocket. Without much time, a saint emperor will be born in our clan. Xiangtian's committed a tremendous contribution. Wrong. It won't be one saint emperor but two. We've all witnessed Xiangtian's talent. I believe in less than 100 years, Xiangtian will reach saint emperor. Changyang Yuan Wuji and Changyang Qing Yinfeng showered Jianshan with praises as soon as they arrived. They constantly commended Jianshan. Changyang Zhu Yinshao and Changyang Zhu Shao silently sat on the stone seats. Their faces were expressionless, so it was impossible to tell what they were feeling. Jianshan's complexion became rather ugly. The meaning behind Changyang Yuan Wuji and Changyang Qing Yinfeng's words was that the fruit was not Jianshan's but the clan's. "Why haven't Qing Yin Juri and Zhenghua come yet?" "I've just contacted them," Changyang Qing Yinfeng suddenly asked. Changyang Qing Yin, Changyang Qing Juri, and Changyang Yuan Zhenghua appeared at the doorstep of the central divine hall as soon as he said that before heading over in unison. All 7 great elders of the Changyang clan had gathered at that moment. If you managed to miss that long post of mine, CSG now has a Patreon set up, where you can read up to 35 chapters ahead. Chapter 1171. Internal Strife of the Changyang Clan. 1. The great elders all sat in order on the stone seats within the pavilion. Many of them faintly smiled with joy they could not hide. Only Jianshan was in a very bad mood, because he knew what they were going to talk about next would definitely be related to the saint's fruit. Changyang Qing Yin looked around and gently cleared his throat. He said, "Since everyone is here, let's cut to the chase. I believe everyone already knows what we are going to discuss, so let's get straight to it. How do you feel that we should split the saint's fruit?" Basically, all the experts on the continent know that we, the Changyang clan, have obtained the saint's fruit. In order to prevent a few experts from attacking our clan, since the temptation is too great, we need to use the fruit as soon as possible. Otherwise, won't our losses be severe if it was taken away by someone else? Changyang Qing Yinfeng righteously spoke. That's right. And the appearance of the fruit this time has even led to the collaboration of the Path Lord of Carnal Desires and the 3 Saint Emperors of the Beast God continent. If the 4 of them attack our clan, regardless of the consequences they would face, in an attempt to obtain the fruit, we would end up in deep trouble, said Changyang Yuan Wuji. He was grim. But there's 7 of us and only 1 fruit. How should we split it? Changyang Yuan Zhenghua asked while deep in thought as the light in his eyes flickered. Who else can we give it to? Is there another Saint King at great perfection in our clan other than Qing Yin? In my opinion, the saint's fruit should obviously go to Qing Yin. Only by giving it to him can we use the fruit to its greatest capacity, Changyang Qing Yinfeng clearly stated. Qing Yin has reached great perfection many years ago, and he only lacks a final step before he can reach Saint Emperor. Using the fruit on him is a waste, Changyang Yuan Zhenghua nonchalantly replied. Changyang Qing Yin's face changed slightly. Before he could say anything, Changyang Qing Yinfeng suddenly stood up and slammed the stone table before him. Although it was extremely tough, the sculpted table was reduced to dust. He angrily said, Zhenghua, what are you trying to say? Are you saying that Qing Yin is incompetent? Changyang Yuan Zhenghua smiled slightly. Please don't get mad, brother Yinfeng. Qing Yun is the only Saint King at great perfection, out of all of us, as well as the most powerful member of our clan. I just feel that if we use the fruit on him, we won't be able to use the fruit to its greatest potential. Do you have an even better idea? Changyang Qing Yunfeng asked with a sunken face. Of course, Changyang Yuan Zhenghua smiled confidently and said, Brother Qing Yin only lacks a fortuitous encounter before he can reach Saint Emperor. If we give the fruit to someone else, and the worldly phenomena invoked by that individual, when they become Saint Emperor, is comprehended by Brother Qing Yin, then reaching Saint Emperor obviously won't be a question. That way, wouldn't there be 2 Saint Emperors from a single fruit? You say that easily. If reaching Saint Emperor really was that easy, the 10 protector clans would not have run out of Saint Emperors. Zhenghua, I feel like you just want the fruit for yourself, Changyang Qing Juri coldly said as he rebuked Changyang Yuan Zhenghua. The great elders argued intensely such that they all became flushed. All that was missing was for them to fight. None of them noticed Jian Chen's pale white face. Everyone, Changyang Zuyinshao finally yelled. He calmly said, all you think about is how the saint's fruit will be distributed. You haven't considered just who obtained the fruit at all. The fruit isn't any of ours. It belongs to Xiangtian. Correct. Xiangtian's contributions in obtaining the fruit were crucial. That's an irrefutable truth. However, if we hadn't intervened in the end, how would he have broken free from the encirclement? And with Xiangtian's unprecedented talent, having attained such accomplishments in less than 100 years, his future is unlimited. If he uses a heavenly resource to become a Saint Emperor with his talent, it's not necessarily a good matter either. It's extremely possible that Xiangtian won't be able to advance any further after becoming a Saint Emperor through these means, said Changyang Qing Juri. Out of all of us, the person who has the most authority in distributing the fruit is Xiangtian. Xiangtian, why don't you say what you plan on doing? Changyang Zuxiao suggested. He too drooled over the saint's fruit inside. After all, it was something that could give birth to Saint Emperors. Jianshen glanced over the 7 of them and said, Great elders, the arguments today have been so intense. Let's talk about the saint's fruit some other day, just in case we fall out with one another. No, we can't leave the saint's fruit hanging around. We need to deal with it as soon as possible. I worry about intruders, a great elder firmly responded. Jianshen's heart sank. He knew that it was no longer possible to drag things out, so he made up his mind. I'll be honest. When I obtained the fruit, I already had an owner in mind. And it's not me, nor any of you here. Is it the 3 magical beasts? No, the saint's fruit is sacred to the humans. It cannot be consumed by magical beasts. Changyang Qing Yun reacted violently. He suddenly stood up and glared at Jianshen. No, it's not them, but the Grand Elder of Mercenary City, Senior Tianjian. I've specifically fought for the fruit for Senior Tianjian, Jianshen replied. He no longer had any room for regret now. The garden fell silent. Everyone had become stunned by what Jianshen had said. No one had ever thought that Jianshen would actually leave the fruit to the Grand Elder of Mercenary City. No, definitely not. A while later, someone abruptly yelled. Changyang Qingyun stared at Jianshen. He was furious as he said, the saint's fruit only appears once every 40,000 years. How can you give something as valuable as that to an outsider? Jianshen, you must consider the clan first as a member of the clan. The fruit is just far too important to the clan. When I fought against the countless vengeful spirits, what did you do? What else did you do when Rui Jin, Hong Lian, Hei Yu, and I fought through the encirclement of so many people? I've exchanged the fruit through bloodshed and risking my life, so it would belong to me. Who I decide to give the fruit to has nothing to do with you. Jianshen also became very straightforward and forceful. He would definitely not hand over the saint's fruit. The faces of the great elders all darkened very much. Even Changyang Zuxiao and Changyang Zuyinshao slightly frowned. They could accept it if the saint's fruit was used by any member of the clan, but if Jianshen actually gave it to an outsider, that would be going too far. Jianshen turned to Changyang Zuyinshao and said, Great-grandfather, please send me off. It looks like it is no longer suitable for me to stay in the Protector clan. Changyang Zuyinshao hesitated before nodding. Xiangtian, you are a member of the Zhu branch, and you are our branch's pride. No matter what happens, we will always stand by your side, as long as you don't break the morals and harm the clansmen. With that, Changyang Zhu Yinshao began casting a secret technique, wanting to open the world gate for Jianchen to leave. Wait! Changyang Qing Yun struck out with his palm, causing the surrounding space to violently shake. He disrupted what Changyang Zhu Yinshao was trying to do while he coldly stared at Jianchen. He heavily said, "You can go, but you have to leave behind the saint's fruit. I don't care how much you put into obtaining the fruit, but as a member of the Protector clan, you need to consider the clan with the utmost importance." "I will not be leaving behind the saint's fruit." Jianchen's voice became icy as well. Fury began to burn inside of him. "Since you're not going to hand over the fruit, I'll come and get it myself." A sharp gleam of light flashed through Changyang Qingyan's eyes, and he arrived in front of Jianchen in a flash. He grabbed at the space ring on Jianchen's finger, wanting to take it. Jianchen had been prepared long ago. The moment Changyang Qingyan moved, the Emperor armament appeared in his right hand. Devastating chaotic force surged from the weapon as he swung it toward Changyang Qingyan's hand with lightning-like speed. The strike was swift, precise, and vicious. It possessed all the power that Jianchen had been secretly charging up. Changyang Qingyan was surprised inside. He did not expect Jianchen to react so quickly, but he was an experienced fighter himself as well. Tremendous amounts of saint force immediately gushed from his hand, and he shifted his movement, striking the face of the sword. Bang! With a muffled sound, the Emperor armament gently resonated. Jianchen's attack had been nullified by Changyang Qingyan. However, Jianchen's attacks did not just stop there. With a twist of his wrist, the Emperor armament danced like a fan to redirect the remaining force, before turning into a dark streak of light. It stabbed toward Changyang Qingyan with unbelievable speed. Changyang Qingyan remained calm. Extending a finger, a vast amount of world force shot out, colliding with the tip of the sword. With a boom, the pavilion in the garden was split into pieces. Violent ripples of energy shot out in all directions, turning the lovely garden into a mess. Jianchen uncontrollably took 3 steps back, leaving behind 3 deep footprints. Changyang Qingyan remained where he was, standing as firmly as a mountain. "Your strength is indeed rather spectacular outside, but it's quite not enough to fight with me," Changyang Qingyan coldly said. Jianchen tightly gripped the Emperor armament in his right hand. His presence became greater and greater. Although the disparity between their strength was very great, he was not scared. "Leave behind the saint's fruit and I'll let you leave," Changyang Qingyan coldly commanded. He needed to obtain the saint's fruit. At this moment, many people flew over from afar. The commotion was just far too great, having alarmed them. If you managed to miss that long post of mine, CSG now has a Patreon setup, where you can read up to 35 chapters ahead. Chapter 1172. Internal Strife of the Changyang Clan 2. The great elders of the Yuan and Qing branches backed away in unison. They expressed their response, and did not take part in the fight. At the same time, they used communication techniques to stop the clansmen hurrying over. "Qing Yun, you're an elder. Isn't it going a little too far by threatening a junior like this?" Changyang Zhu Xiao questioned in a heavy voice. He and Changyang Zhu Yinshao remained where they were, and had not moved away. "You're all senior members of the clan, so you know the rules." He was looking for it himself. Changyang Qingyan's face sank, and his tone became icy as well. He had been at the great perfection of Saint King for many years now. Although he was only an inch away from Saint Emperor, he had not made any contact with the other realm of cultivation. He knew that it would be impossible for him to become a Saint Emperor in this life, so he needed to obtain the saint's fruit. Of course we remember the rules of the clan well, but he's different than the other clansmen. He never grew up in the Protector clan, and he's only joined recently from a side branch outside. His status now is a great elder as well, so you can't treat him like any old clansman. With his outstanding talent, I believe we can make some exceptions. Changyang Zhu Xiao. Changyang Zhu Yinshao walked over as well, He stood in front of Jianchen and blocked Changyang Qingyin. He said, "Most importantly, Xiangtian only obtained this saint's fruit with the assistance of his 3 powerful friends. We, the Changyang clan, did not contribute much at all on the other hand. So I believe we have no right to take it away from him. No. The rulers of the clan have never been broken in countless years. It doesn't matter how shocking Xiangtian's talent is. He's still a member of the Changyang clan. He needs to follow the rules." Changyang Qingyin did not give in at all as he spoke in a firm voice. Jianchen also became angered with that. He deeply said, "If that's the case, I'll leave the clan from now on. In the future, the protector Changyang clan has nothing to do with me." Changyang Qingyin suddenly glared at Jianchen. He heavily said, "The Changyang clan is one of the 10 protector clans of the continent. You can't just leave because you say you're leaving. Just with that, you've already broken the rules of the clan. I will capture you now and take you to the ancestral hall, where the disciplinary elders will sentence you." With a flash, Changyang Qingyin made his way around Changyang Zuyinshao. Energy surged from his right hand, materializing into a web-like net that shot toward Jianchen. A sliver of anger also flashed through Changyang Zuyinxiao's eyes. At that crucial moment, he threw a punch at Changyang Qingyin. Saint force surged within the fist, causing cracks to appear in the space that was much tougher than the outside world. Changyang Qingyin remained calm and composed. He gently struck out with his left hand, and easily nullified the powerful Saint force in Changyang Zuyinxiao's hand. The net continued to toward Jianchen. Jianchen's presence became extremely powerful and battle intent surged from him. His glare became as sharp as a sword. He did not show any fear against a Saint King at great perfection, quickly stabbing at Changyang Qingyin, as a layer of chaotic force revolved around the Emperor armament. Such overconfidence! Changyang Qingyin's lips curled in disdain. The net of energy split into 2. A portion wrapped around the Emperor armament, while the other continued along the same trajectory toward Jianchen. Jianchen's Emperor armament seemed like it had been tightly wrapped up now. Even the luster of the chaotic force was suppressed. Jianchen did not become flustered. With a violent tremble of his hand, the Emperor armament shook. Streaks of dark light broke free from Changyang Qingyin's suppression, and became brighter and brighter. The chaotic force on the Emperor armament was rapidly breaking free from Changyang Qingyin's restraints. At this moment, the other portion of the net had arrived over Jianchen's head. Just as he was about to become entangled, a streak of golden light shot out from the center of his eyebrows. It became a 3-meter-tall golden tower, which hovered above his head and glimmered with the color of gold. The tip of the tower held back the net. The tower was tightly trapped by the net, but the Emperor armament had finally broken free during this period of time. It glowed with a dark light as an aura of destruction radiated from it far and wide. It alerted many experts who were in seclusion, causing them to open their eyes and emerge. Swish! The sword cut through the air, and with its powerful and devastating might, it actually created a thin black crack in the reinforced space. It stabbed toward Changyang Qingyin with almost unstoppable force. The speed of the sword was so great that it became invisible to the naked eye. All that could be seen was a flicker of darkness. The sword had arrived at Changyang Qingyin's forehead with unbelievable speed. The forehead was the fatal weakness of any expert. It was where their meridian of life was located, so it was the place where their soul resided. Even Saint Kings at great perfection could suffer life-threatening injuries from the soul, and they could even die from it. Jianchen's strike was aimed at Changyang Qingyin's forehead. He had attacked to kill without showing any mercy at all. Changyang Qingyin's face darkened. Chilling killing intent appeared in his eyes. And when the Emperor armament was only 3 inches away from his forehead, the space around Jianchen suddenly froze. He was locked in place in his posture of stabbing out with the sword. Even the Emperor armament had come to a halt, forcefully stopped 3 inches away. However, this only lasted for a second. The frozen space was shattered by Jianchen's chaotic force, but as soon as he regained his mobility, Changyang Qingyin had already arrived by his side. He bellowed out, "You have committed an unforgivable crime, punishable by death, for trying to kill a great elder." As the highest-ranking elder, I, Changyang Qingyin, shall be representing the Changyang clan to punish you. Changyang Qingyin immediately sent a palm strike in Jian Chen's way. Energy surged from his palm, and his attack seemed to have engulfed an entire region, causing the space around Jian Chen to become. Jian Chen was grim. His eyes were cold, and with a thought, the saint artifact immediately shrunk to the size of a fist and slipped out of the net. It flew over as a golden streak of light and stood in front of Jian Chen like a shield. A rumble immediately erupted when Changyang Qingyun's attack landed on the saint artifact. The power hidden within was far beyond imagination. He blew the saint artifact away with the attack, and the golden tower smashed into Jian Chen, even forcing him to rapidly retreat. Powerful ripples of energy surged in all directions, reducing the garden to nothing. Almost all the exotic flowers and herbs had been reduced to dust. If you managed to miss that long post of mine, CSG now has a Patreon setup, where you can read up to 35 chapters ahead. Chapter 1173. Internal Strife of the Changyang Clan 3. Jian Chen uncontrollably took over 10 steps back, before finally nullifying the powerful force. Just as he stabilized himself, Changyang Qingyin aggressively attacked with his second palm strike. He continued to use his full strength, without showing any mercy. With the attack, the space around Jian Chen froze, trapping him once again. Saint Kings at great perfection had already reached the very peak of Saint King. They were only an inch away from becoming a Saint Emperor, and they were the closest existences to Saint Emperor. Changyang Qingyin possessed an absolute advantage over Jian Chen, who was just a 7th heavenly layer Saint King. This time, Jian Chen could not break through the frozen space in time. All he could do was watch helplessly as Changyang Qingyun's powerful attack rapidly drew closer. Chaotic force wildly surged within him, having pushed the chaotic body to the limit already. He planned on taking the attack head-on. At this moment, an old but straight figure suddenly appeared in front of Jian Chen. He was Changyang Zhu Xiao, and energy pulsed from him as tremendous amounts of world force coiled around him. Although his vast presence was not as great as Changyang Qingyun's aura, he was not much weaker either. He then struck out with his palm, using invisible world force to fend off Changyang Qingyun's attack. Boom! With a great rumble, terrifying energy ripples played out in a terrifying storm, which caused the entire piece of floating land to violently shake. The energy of the world convulsed. Changyang Qingyun stood as still as a mountain, remaining where he was, but Changyang Zhu Xiao trembled gently. The ground where he stood had sunk a little. Changyang Zhu Xiao, what are you doing? Changyang Qingyun sharply glared at Changyang Zhu Xiao. Changyang Zhu Xiao emotionlessly looked at Changyang Qingyun. He said without any emotions whatsoever as well. Qingyun, are you going so far as to lay your hands so heavily on a junior? Xiangtian's a great elder of our clan, moreover. Great elder? Humph. Has there been any great elder who does not consider the clan's development first? He may be a great elder, but he's always been acting selfishly without considering for the clan at all. Is there any use for a great elder like that? From now on, I declare, in the name of the highest-ranking elder, that Changyang Zhu Xiangtian will be removed of his position as great elder. Changyang Qingyun coldly announced. You need the agreement of the 7 of us to remove a great elder from his position. Qingyun, you don't have the authority just by yourself, Changyang Zhu Xiao replied. It doesn't matter if you remove me from the position or not. I'm no longer a member of the Protector Changyang clan, and from now on, I have no connection to it either. Jian Chen yelled as he struggled in the frozen space. By now, a large number of people had gathered in the distance. The fight in the garden had alerted the entire inner clan. Many people hurried over from all directions, hovering high in the sky as they watched from very far away. They had all been forbidden to get anywhere near the battle by a few great elders, through communication techniques. So no one dared to head over. Killing intent filled Changyang Qingyun's face. He made his way around Changyang Zhu Xiao, and charged at Jian Chen. Qingyun, Xiangtian's a member of my Zhu branch. He cannot be trampled over like this by your Qing branch. Changyang Zhu Xiao blocked Changyang Qingyun, and clashed several dozen times with him at the speed of lightning. Changyang Qingyan fell into utter rage, after being blocked time and time again. He taunted Changyang Zhu Xiao. If you insist of shielding him from his mistakes, don't blame me for not showing you any respect. Show me just how much you've improved in the past few years. The two of them began to fight ferociously. As they fought, they moved from the land to the sky, and then from the sky to a cluster of mountains in the distance. Various creatures were alarmed as the powerful ripples of energy rocked the entire space. Many cracks constantly expanded and constantly healed together. Several mountains had collapsed under their battle. I never thought that Zhu Zhao's strength had already reached the 9th heavenly layer, and is about to reach great perfection. It won't be easy if Qing Yin wants to defeat Zhu Xiao, Changyang Qingjuri mumbled. The clansmen all stared at Changyang Qingyan and Changyang Zhu Xiao as they fought in panic from afar. None of them knew what was happening. A lot of them felt uneasy when they saw the authoritative great elders fight in such an intense fashion. They all began to whisper in discussion. Juror Yinfeng, come take down this wrongdoer for me, Changyang Qingyan called out from afar. The confused clansmen all heard what Changyang Qingyan had said, which immediately led to a great commotion. Various discussions rang out in all directions, but there were even more sounds of satisfaction made in the direction of Jian Chen. Jian Chen was young, where his actual age was not even a fraction of many of the people present, yet he had actually climbed his way up to a position of a great elder, looming above them all. This had led to the disagreement of many older people long ago, but it had all been suppressed by the great elders to the point that they could not mention it. Yet now, many people unhappy with Jian Chen no longer felt any fear because his wrongdoings had led to a fight between the two great elders. Various complaints constantly rang out. Changyang Qingjuri and Changyang Qingyinfeng were all people of the same branch. They did not hesitate at all when they heard what Changyang Qingyan said, and immediately charged toward Jian Chen. Changyang Zhu Yinxiao sneered and went up to face them. He stopped Changyang Qingyinfeng. Yinxiao, looks like you want to fight with me. Your strength may have increased, having broken through to the 5th heavenly layer, but you're still not my opponent. It's best if you don't interfere with this matter, just in case we end up falling out, Changyang Qingyinfeng said. What a joke! You've decided to mistreat the people of my branch so roughly, and in such a brazen fashion. Yet you want to persuade me to not interfere? Changyang Zhu Yinfeng stood firm with his decision, and was not swayed at all. I have nothing else to say if that's the case, Changyang Qingyinfeng coldly replied, and began fighting with Changyang Zhu Yinxiao. On another side, Changyang Qingjuri began to fight Jian Chen as well. However, he was only a Saint King of the 5th heavenly layer, so he was nowhere near Jian Chen's opponent. After just clashing a few times, he lost an arm to Jian Chen, and wailed out uncontrollably from the pain. How dare you? The crime for injuring a great elder cannot be forgiven. Wuji, Zhenghua, you two quickly come and capture the traitor of the clan. Changyang Qingyun noticed the situation over there, and furiously called out as he fought Changyang Zhu Xiao. He was boiling with rage. Changyang Yuan Wuji and Changyang Yuan Zhenghua hesitated slightly before heading toward Jian Chen in the end. Changyang Yuan Wuji was the stronger of the two, having reached the 8th heavenly layer of Saint King, while Changyang Qing Zhenghua was the weaker one, at the 4th heavenly layer. Jian Chen's pressure immediately increased when the two of them took part in the battle. He quickly fell to a disadvantage. It was rather difficult for Jian Chen to handle them, especially Changyang Yuan Wuji, who was at the 8th heavenly layer of Saint King. You have gone too far, Yuan and Qing branches. Changyang Zhu Xiao roared out as he fought Changyang Qingyan. A violent presence radiated from him as his hair and clothes fluttered despite the absence of wind. Invisible world force in the surroundings rapidly gathered around him. Changyang Zhu Yinxiao looked at the sky, and he held his right hand as a fist over his head. His body was filled with a wildly domineering presence, as if he was about to challenge the world. A ball of faint white light suddenly appeared where his fist was, before turning white-hot in the blink of an eye. It seemed like a miniature sun, illuminating the surroundings. Founding God's fist. It's the Founding God's fist. Changyang Zhu Yinxiao, why? You're actually going to use the founding god's fist to deal with me. Changyangqing Yimfeng paled in fright. He immediately shot back, as he hurriedly circled his hands in the air. He created layers of defenses, using a secret technique in front of him, while Saint Force surged from his body at the same time. It condensed into a layer of armor on him. Changyangqing Yun, and the two great elders of the Yuan branch's expressions changed slightly as well. They felt great fear for the founding god's fist. It was an extremely powerful and violent punching technique, created by a talented ancestor of the Zhu branch. It was an extremely powerful Saint-tier battle skill, having reached the limits of Saint-tier battle skills, and touching the edge of another domain. It was just a pity that the battle skill had always been controlled by the Zhu branch, so the people from the other two branches could not comprehend it. If you managed to miss that long post of mine, CSG now has a Patreon setup, where you can read up to 35 chapters ahead. Chapter 1174. The Founding God's Fist, Yunxiao. You're actually using the Founding God's Fist against your own clansmen. Do you know what you're going right now? Changyangqing Yun furiously roared as he fought against Changyang Zhu Xiao. However, what he said was not enough to stop Changyang Zhu Yunxiao. The Founding God's First was a powerful battle skill that bordered a whole different domain. So even with Changyang Zhu Yunxiao's strength, he needed some time to charge it up. The weather in the surrounding area suddenly began to change. As he charged up the battle skill, the rich energy and world force in the independent world began to move violently, creating storms of energy and kicking dust into the air. The entire floating land gently trembled. The space around Changyang Zhu Yunxiao began to violently shake. It wildly twisted, obscuring him, and making his figure appear bent from time to time. Extremely powerful energy had condensed where his fist was. Transcendence, supreme shielding. As Changyang Zhu Yunxiao's opponent, Changyangqing Yimfeng shouted out as well. He used an ancient secret technique, using spatial force to create a spatial obstruction between him and Changyang Zhu Yunxiao, as if they had been separated by two different worlds. Suddenly, a tremendous pressure appeared. It was so powerful that all the Saint rulers who were watching from afar shuddered unknowingly, and many people below Saint ruler had even collapsed to the ground. Some of the weaker people had even vomited blood. Just the pressure had ruptured their organs and made them heavily injured. The pressure was exceptionally great, far more powerful than other Saint-tier battle skills. Such a skill was extremely rare on the Tianyuan continent, and only Saint Kings could resist it. Changyang Zhu Yunxiao bathed in a dazzling light. He seemed like a god, possessing an absolute will. His fist slightly moved toward Changyangqing Yimfeng from afar. His fist did not move fast at all. In fact, it could be described as extremely slow. However, as he punched, he seemed to have invoked some mysteries and powerful energies of the world, causing the muffled rumble of thunder to ring through the space. With a single punch, the weather changed and everything fell silent. The punch seemed to have replaced the world, becoming the only existence that moved. It was the most eye-catching thing in the world. The punch seemed to have used all the power in the surroundings. It shot forward with an unstoppable force in the form of an angered dragon. The Founding God's Fist had already reached the peak of Saint-tier battle skills, and had already reached the border of a whole different domain. It was close to transcending the Saint-tier. The fist collided with the spatial barrier from Changyangqing Yimfeng first, yet it was unable to stop it at all. The fist easily made its way through, causing the space there to violently shake. A region of it had already shattered, disintegrating into darkness, but it recovered very quickly. The battle skill was not weakened after making it through the barrier. It continued to surge toward Changyangqing Yimfeng with great might. Changyangqing Yimfeng became extremely stern. He had already been locked onto by the battle skill, so it could not be dodged easily, especially since it had virtually surpassed the Saint-tier. He could only take it head-on, unable to flee. The punch came in contact with the layers of defenses cast down through secret techniques, with an earth-shaking commotion. It broke through all obstructions, and landed on Changyangqing Yimfeng's body mercilessly. Spurt. Blood immediately sprayed from Changyangqing Yimfeng's mouth as mist. He was completely blown away, passing through several mountains along the way, before finally becoming lodged in another mountain. There were no signs of movement from him for quite a long time. Changyang Zhu Yunxiao, I definitely won't let you off easily for being so heavy-handed against a great elder. Changyang Qingyin furiously yelled again. His presence quickly skyrocketed, and he began to use his full strength regardless of the consequences. He blew Changyang Zhu Xiao away with a single palm strike, before flying toward Changyang Zhu Yunxiao as a furious streak of light. The light around Changyang Zhu Yunxiao was extraordinarily blinding. After the attack, the might of the battle skill had no dispersed yet. He only stared at Changyang Qingyin in interest with no fear at all. Afterward, he punched toward Changyang Qingyin in the exact same manner. With the punch, everything fell silent. It seemed to have become the only existence in the world, possessing an unbelievable amount of force. Changyang Qingyin showed no emotion in his icy cold eyes. Although Changyang Zhu Yunxiao's battle skill had surpassed Saint Tier, it was still limited by his strength after all. It was not enough to threaten Changyang Qingyin. Soul-obliterating palm strike. Changyang Qingyin sneered. He struck his hand against the founding god's fist, and a pressure descended from the surroundings. It was also a Saint Tier battle skill, except it was nowhere as great as the founding god's fist, but with his strength at great perfection, Changyang Qingyin could use it instantaneously. The two Saint Tier battle skills collided in the air, and a great boom erupted. Terrifying ripples of energy dissipated into the surroundings, almost causing the space there to shatter. The 18 divine halls high up in the sky had become even more consolidated now, holding the whole space in place. The two battle skills were equally matched and dispersed at the same time. Although the two battle skills varied in base power, the disparity in their caster's cultivation level was just far too great, which was why this difference in power could be made up. Before Changyang Zhu Yunxiao could recover from casting the battle skill, Changyang Qingyin arrived in front of him with a flash. He hit Changyang Zhu Yunxiao with a palm strike, which passed through the brilliance of the founding god's fist to land on his chest. Spurt! A cloud of blood shot from Changyang Zhu Yunxiao's mouth, and blood immediately drained from his face. He was blown far away by Changyang Qingyin's attack, now heavily injured. I will never forgive you, Changyang Qingyin. Changyang Zhu Yunxiao was utterly enraged. He charged over from afar as his eyes boiled with killing intent. Changyang Zhu Yunxiao was his great-grandson, and more importantly, the pride of the Zhu branch. Changyang Zhu Zhao's anger had reached an irrevocable level after watching Changyang Qingyin injure Changyang Zhu Yunxiao. Changyang Zhu Zhao's presence rapidly skyrocketed, reaching his peak very soon. It seemed like he was about to use the founding god's fist. Changyang Qingyin glared at Changyang Zhu Xiao and called out, Changyang Zhu Xiao, your Zhu branch has the founding god's fist, but my Qing branch has the nurture of spring. If we really do clash, the people who'll get hurt will only be the clansmen. Do you want to become labeled as an eternal traitor? Changyang Qingyin's eyes were filled with fear. He was able to dismiss Changyang Zhu Yunxiao's founding god's fist, but he needed to face the same battle skill cast by Changyang Zhu Xiao carefully. A gleam of light flickered through Changyang Zhu Zhao's eyes. After a moment of deliberation, he gave up on the thought of using the battle skill. Jian Chen's battle against the two great elders of the Yuan branch was intense. He was littered with wounds and very heavily injured. Changyang Yuan Zhenghua was also covered in many slashes from a sword. He was also heavily injured. If you managed to miss that long post of mine, CSG now has a Patreon set up, where you can read up to 35 chapters ahead. Chapter 1175. Descent of the Bright Moon Divine Hall of the Two Great Elders from the Yuan branch. Changyang Yuan Zhenghua was weaker than Jian Chen, but Changyang Yuan Wuji was an 8th heavenly layer Saint King. He was the 3rd strongest person of the clan, and his strength completely surpassed Jian Chen's. Every single strike of his possessed mountain-shattering force, and he would use ancient secret techniques from time to time. It was very difficult for Jian Chen cope with, so he fell to a disadvantage. All the heavy injuries on Jian Chen had basically come from Changyang Yuan Wuji, but the chaotic body gifted him with great vitality and battle prowess at the same time. His strength did not decrease at all despite his injuries, but he could not last for too long either. Bang! With a muffled sound, Changyang Yuan Wuji's palm landed on Jian Chen's chest, launching him far away. The attack was very powerful. Jian Chen only stopped after flying several thousand meters, and after colliding into a mountain. His entire chest had caved in, and most of his ribs were broken. Jian Chen clenched his teeth, and chaotic force quickly circulated within him. He recovered just as quickly, but even with that, his speed of recovery was far slower than the rate he was sustaining injuries. Jian Chen glanced around, and saw that Changyang Zhu Xiao and Changyang Qing Yin were still fighting far away. Tremendous ripples of energy wreaked havoc in the surroundings, causing whole clusters of mountains to tremble. On the other hand, there were no signs of movement from Changyang Zhu Yin Xiao after he had been blown away by Changyang Qing Yin. Jian Chen's face was extremely ashen. He was completely at a disadvantage right now. He could rival 7th Heavenly Layer Saint Kings if he fought by himself, but he was helpless against Changyang Yuan Wuji, no matter how hard he tried. As a great elder, Changyang Yuan Wuji knew many powerful ancient secret techniques, so no ordinary Saint King could compare to him. The independent space was sealed as well, and it could not be opened without the corresponding technique. He was now trapped here and unable to leave. Energy pulsed up ahead as Changyang Yuan Wuji aggressively flew over. He glared fixedly at Jian Chen, as if he was afraid that Jian Chen would run away. Greed was evidently plastered across his face. Now that Qing Yun's busy with Zhu Xiao, it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for me. I'll eat the fruit as soon as I get it, and he can't do anything to me. All he can do is watch from the side. I'll be able to reach the supreme realm of Saint Emperors very soon, and become the strongest of the protector clans. Changyang Yuan Wuji laughed maniacally inside. He could basically taste the moment he would become a Saint Emperor. But he needed to suppress his wild excitement, or he would have begun laughing aloud. But this brat's talent is very great. He'll probably reach Saint Emperor himself without much time, so he's a huge threat to me. He's going to suffer a death sentence today anyway, so I might as well go all in and finish him off right now. Thinking up to there, heavy killing intent immediately flashed through Changyang Yuan Wuji's eyes. He had made up his mind about killing Jian Chen, since he had decided he would take the fruit. A silver lance completely condensed from energy appeared in Changyang Yuan Wuji's hand. With its materialization, a powerful pressure appeared in the surroundings, crushing Jian Chen like a mountain. It caused his body to sink and stopped all his actions. This was the pressure of a Saint-tier battle skill that originated from Changyang Yuan Wuji. The silver lance turned into a white streak of light, shooting toward Jian Chen with lightning-like speed. Jian Chen was stern. With a thought, the Saint artifact immediately transformed into a 10-meter-tall golden tower in front of him, helping him withstand Changyang Yuan Wuji's Saint-tier battle skill. At the same time, a 3-meter-tall figure appeared beside Jian Chen with a flash of golden light. He was an extremely burly man who seemed like a small giant. His skin was goldish-brown, and a golden brilliance radiated from him. This figure was Tai Ta, who had remained within the Saint artifact. Jian Chen had secretly informed Tai Ta long ago that the situation outside was very dangerous. As soon as he appeared, a dense layer of golden light surrounded him, and he called out, "Mysteries of War, World's Fist!" The golden light around him condensed on his hand, and at that moment, a wondrous power actually revolved around his fist. He then smashed the space in front of him viciously. Thrum! Tai Ta's punch actually produced an extremely unique sound. It seemed like the creaking and painful wailing of space. It began to violently shake with Tai Ta's attack, showing signs of ripping apart. The 18 divine halls in the sky consolidated even more than before. Every single one of them radiated with an energy that fused with the independent space, reinforcing it so that it became even more powerful than the outside world. The space became indestructible, like a metal cage. The shaking space stabilized very quickly. Tai Ta's expression immediately changed when he saw this, and he said, "Jian Chen, I can't break through the space here." "What?" Jian Chen was shocked. He asked, "Tai Ta, didn't you say that your mysteries of war can break through all limitations of space and travel through the void, and that you can go anywhere you want to?" Tai Ta scratched his head in a panic. He nervously replied, "That's what the information I received said. My world's fist can indeed break through the limitations of any region of space, but I never thought it would be so tough here. It's become useless. Looks like my strength is too weak, and my level of understanding regarding the technique isn't enough." God damn it, Jianchen swore inside. The plan could not adapt to the changing situation. He had never imagined it would end up like this. It was already night outside right now. A full moon hung high in the sky, casting down beautiful moonlight. A silver-white divine hall silently descended from outer space, before stopping above the entrance to the Changyang clan's independent space. The beautiful Yu Yu, dressed in white, stood on top of the roof as she held the moon god's scepter that Fairy Hao Yu had given her. Suddenly, Yu Yu raised the scepter, and the gem embedded within it began to shine with dense moonlight. At the same time, the full moon in the sky suddenly grew brighter. It actually began to shine with unprecedented brightness, as if it was resonating with Yu Yu's scepter. The two of them seemed to be calling out to each other from far away. "I never thought that you'd have a helper, but inside the Protector clan, it's useless even if you bring a Saint King at great perfection." Changyang Yuan Wuji sneered back inside the independent space. The energy around him surged and rushed toward Jianchen. Tai Ta's eyes slid over. A golden axe appeared in his hand, and he yelled, "Mysteries of war, destruction!" A supreme battle intent suddenly appeared. It was enough to affect everyone's mind. At that moment, all the clansmen who were watching from afar lost any bravery to fight as their morale collapsed. All of them shivered under the battle intent, as they looked at Tai Ta in dread. At that moment, Tai Ta seemed to have become an undefeatable war god in the eyes of many of them. Even saint rulers had lost their courage to fight in front of Tai Ta. An extremely dazzling streak of light shot through the air, heading toward Changyang Yuan Wuji, like a bolt of lightning along with the battle intent. Changyang Yuan Wuji blanked out. The sudden battle intent had affected him slightly as well, but he could suppress the effects with his strength, so he recovered very quickly. Seeing the golden axe flying over, he wanted to dodge, but discovered that it had already locked onto his presence. He hurried and used an ancient secret technique, and managed to block Tai Ta's attack, but the powerful force launched him far away. "What is this presence?" Changyang Qingyun and Changyang Zuxiao stopped fighting in the distance. They glanced at Tai Ta as doubt and surprise flooded their faces. "The mysteries of war, destruction. Isn't this a powerful battle skill used by the war god of the 100 races, Ergens? In ancient times, the one mentioned in the records? The records say that Ergens had used it to destroy a small portion of the entire continent with a single swing, and over 10 saint emperors died to it." Changyang Qingyun stared blankly as disbelief flooded his face. Changyang Zuxiao stared at Tai Ta, as Tai Ta bathed in golden light from afar. He murmured, "Surrounded in golden light, and able to give off such a unique battle intent. Is he? That's the war god of the 100 races. No wonder the 100 races had launched a large-scale invasion of our continent. That had never happened before after all. So it turns out to be all connected to the war god." Changyang Qingyun suddenly called out. He immediately guessed Tai Ta's identity, and became both fearful and surprised. Even with his mental fortitude, he struggled to remain calm. The war god of the 100 races was just far too famous. His prestige was so great that even saint emperors would pale upon hearing about him. After all, he was a sovereign-like figure that had surpassed saint emperor. In ancient times, just the amount of saint emperors that fell by his hand was innumerable. Only other experts at the same level of cultivation could match up against him. However, Changyang Qingyun realized Tai Ta's strength very soon. He immediately calmed down very much, and killing intent began to flow from his eyes in an undisguised manner. He said, "Zuxiao, the war god of the 100 races has reappeared. We may not have been part of the matters during the ancient times, but you understand very well from the records. You know what you should be doing at this moment." Changyang Zuxiao frowned heavily. He stared at Tai Ta fixedly as the light within his eyes flickered. "Before the war god has fully matured, kill him immediately, and remove the future danger. Otherwise, the Tianyuan continent will become doomed." The tragedy of the ancient times will be repeated. But this time, we don't have an expert like Mo Tianyan to stop him. Zhu Xiao, let's forget our disagreements for now, and kill the war god together, Changyang Qingyun coldly said. He charged toward Tai Ta first after he finished speaking. Rumble! At this moment, a deafening boom rang out from the sky, causing the entire clan to violently shake. If you managed to miss that long post of mine, CSG now has a Patreon setup, where you can read up to 35 chapters ahead. Chapter 1176, Descent on Lore City, 1. Changyang Qingyun suddenly came to a stop after the huge boom rang across as he was charging at Tai Ta. He stared at the sky as some surprise and shock flooded his face. The sound had alarmed everyone in the clan, whether they were part of the inner clan or outer clan. At that moment, all of them raised their heads to the sky. Many people had no idea what was happening. The space in the sky shook and violently distorted. Strands of bright and gentle white light seemed to be worming through the cracked space. The 18 halls holding the space together had all completely appeared at that moment. They had become 18 real divine halls, maintaining the region of space. Every divine hall surged with tremendous energy along with profound truths of space. This is an invasion. 18 elders, quickly use the 18 halls to stabilize the space. We can't let the outsiders in. Changyang Qingyun gave a stern order. He was extremely grim. Before the internal strife of the clan had even reached a conclusion, people had already begun invading. If they did not stop the invasion in time, the Changyang clan would definitely end up paying a heavy price. 18 old men immediately took to the sky from the ground. They each flew toward a divine hall, wanting to enter the halls to harness their full power. However, just as they charged into the sky, the space of the Changyang clan jerked violently again. The space in the sky had been split open, and a large swathe of moonlight emerged, illuminating the entire clan and turning it into a silver-white world. Enter the divine halls, someone exclaimed from the air. The 18 old men immediately stopped hesitating, ignoring what was happening in the sky. They entered the 18 divine halls as fast as they could. Immediately, each divine hall began to shine with extremely blinding light. The 18 divine halls created a huge formation, giving off even more powerful energy and mysteries of space to stabilize the realm. The crack in the sky also rapidly closed up. At this moment, a huge silver-white divine hall descended from the sky. It just happened to lodge itself within the healing cracks, preventing them from closing it up completely. Isn't this fairy how use Bright Moon Divine Hall? Changyang Qingyun called out as shock flooded his face. It really is the Bright Moon Divine Hall. Changyang Zuxiao also stared at the divine hall in the sky in shock. Changyang Yuan Wuji temporarily forgot about Jianchen and Tai Ta. He stared at the divine hall in the sky blankly so much that he could not return to his senses, even after quite a while. At this moment, the door of the divine hall suddenly swung open. Yu emerged at the main entrance with the moon god's scepter in her hand, as hazy moonlight fell from the arch of the entrance. It formed a light screen to protect Yu. Yu's beautiful face was currently filled with worry and undisguised anxiety. She stood there and constantly looked around, finding Jianchen very quickly. However, her heart fell into agony when she saw Jianchen all bloodied and covered in wounds. Tears began to uncontrollably roll from her cheeks. Jianchen, Yu called out in grief. She wanted to fly down and help Jianchen regardless of the dangers, but she was stopped by the light screen. She could not take a single step out of the divine hall. Jianchen also discovered Yu. He immediately became stunned. Never did he think that Yu would actually come looking for him here. Jianchen, get on here quick. Yu called out anxiously between her tears. Jianchen glanced at Yu with extremely mixed emotions and wiped away the blood at the corner of his lips. With a thought, the saint artifact immediately flew back to his hand, and he flew toward a distant mountain. Very soon, Jianchen flew over while carrying the heavily injured Changyang Zuyinshao. He called Tai Ta over, and they flew toward the divine hall in the air together. Leaving won't be that easy, Changyang Qingyun roared out. He could not let Jianchen go with the saint's fruit, Nor could he let Tai Ta go as the war god. A terrifying pressure suddenly appeared. Changyang Qing Yin used a saint-tier battle skill, with his strength at great perfection, in attempt to prevent Jian Shen and Tai Ta from leaving. Yu Yu looked at Changyang Qing Yin with all the hatred she felt. She extended the scepter, and a fist-sized strand of moonlight shot from the gem. It traveled toward Changyang Qing Yin at an unbelievable speed. Changyang Qing Yin had just finished preparing the saint-tier battle skill. But before he could even use it, he sensed the strand of moonlight shooting over from above. So he immediately used the saint-tier battle skill on the moonlight, even though he had prepared it for Jian Chen and Tai Ta. With an enormous boom, Changyang Qing Yin's saint-tier battle skill was destroyed by the inconspicuous strand of light. The moonlight continued on without weakening, headed toward Changyang Qing Yin. Boom! The strand of moonlight struck Changyang Qing Yin in the chest, and he vomited a mouthful of blood. He also lost control over his ability to hover, falling out of the sky. Saint Emperor, this is a Saint Emperor's power. Changyang Qing Yin hovered back into the air again very soon. He stared at Yu Yu standing at the main entrance of the Divine Hall, and his face was filled with shock and disbelief. Jian Shen had already approached the Divine Hall with Tai Ta, while carrying the heavily injured Changyang Zhu Yinshao. He passed through the light screen without any obstructions, and arrived inside the Divine Hall. Yu Yu was relieved seeing how Jian Shen had finally made it to the Divine Hall. She glared at all the people below before vanishing inside. Bang! The doors of the Divine Hall slammed shut, and the Divine Hall gently trembled. Pure strands of moonlight force radiated from it, expanding the crack in the sky again in an attempt to leave. But at this moment, a supreme sword chi appeared from the forbidden grounds of the clan, causing the whole place to shake. Chapter 1177. Descent on Lore City 2. The formations in the forbidden grounds had already cracked open. A huge sword shone with blinding light as it slowly rose into the air, radiating with earth-shaking sword chi. Around a dozen Saint Ruler old men sat beneath the sword. All of them were pale-faced and filled with exhaustion. They had expended a lot to use a secret technique to awaken the Emperor armament. Fantastic! The Emperor armament has finally awakened. Now let's see how the Bright Moon Divine Hall escapes. Changyang Qing Yin was delighted. It's the clan's Emperor armament. Wonderful! The Emperor armament has finally appeared. The might of our Emperor armament is unbelievable. Is there still anyone who can stand up to it once it appears? The invading Divine Hall won't even be able to take a single attack from the Emperor armament. The clan immediately began to buzz with the appearance of the Emperor armament. Many core members of the clan knew about the legend of the Emperor armament, so they obviously held blind belief in it. They believed it to be the most powerful weapon in the world. Suddenly, the huge sword gently trembled. A sword chi much more powerful than before immediately emerged. With its jerk, many tiny cracks immediately appeared in the tough space of the Changyang clan, and the Emperor armament turned into a resplendent streak of light. It stabbed at the Bright Moon Divine Hall with unbelievable speed, arriving nearby in a single instant. It seemed like it had teleported. Boom! With a deafening rumble, the Emperor armament struck the Divine Hall like a bolt of lightning. The sound from the collision temporarily deafened many people, causing their ears to ring. Terrifying energy ripples transformed into a violent storm as they ripped across the sky. The floating piece of land in the center of the Changyang clan violently shook. Many buildings collapsed, and it was reduced to a mess. However, no one paid attention to the ruined houses. They all stared unblinkingly at the Emperor armament and Divine Hall in the sky. The Bright Moon Divine Hall remained hovering in the sky in a stable fashion. There were no signs of damage on the pure white and majestic structure, not even a single scratch in fact. The Bright Moon Divine Hall was actually unscathed after taking a strike from the Emperor armament. Impossible. Changyang Qing Yin stared at the sky wide-eyed. Disbelief had completely overwhelmed him, and he refused to accept what had just unfolded in front of him. Changyang Zuxiao also became stunned. He murmured, "The Emperor armament has been awakened by a secret technique, and is unable to use its full might without anyone's control. But it can easily break through any Divine Hall. How can the bright moon divine hall take a strike from it and emerge completely fine? Even if it's made from the special materials of the moon, it's impossible for it to be this tough. Changyang Qingyin and Changyang Zuxiao were not the only people shocked. Every single person who knew the power of the Emperor armament became tongue-tied in disbelief at what had just happened. Thrum! The Emperor armament in the air resonated loudly before striking the divine hall again with great force. With another boom, the outcome was the same as before. The bright moon divine hall had forcefully taken on the Emperor armament's attack without sustaining any damage. The Emperor armament of a protector clan was actually unable to leave a single mark on the pure white structure. The divine hall became enshrouded by a layer of bright moonlight. Pure and powerful moonlight force slowly forced the crack open, which the divine hall then slowly rose through. It paid no attention to the Emperor armament. The war god of the 100 races is within the bright moon divine hall. We can't let it leave. Great elders, let's control the Emperor armament together. Otherwise, if the war god leaves here, there will be unthinkable consequences, Changyang Qingyin called out. Right now, the Emperor armament was only attacking automatically after it had been awakened. It was unable to use all its power without being controlled, so it was very weak. Other than Changyang Zuxiao, the other great elders all charged at the Emperor armament in unison. Even Changyang Qingyinfeng, who had been heavily injured by Changyang Zuyinxiao's founding god's fist, participated as well. The bright moon divine hall broke out of the independent space and arrived outside. The crack in the space had finally closed up as well, concealing the Changyang clan once again. But the next moment, the world gate of the Changyang clan opened widely. 5 great elders poured their strength together to control the Emperor armament as they aggressively flew out, making their way over to the bright moon divine hall. The Emperor armament became even more powerful under their control. The door of the divine hall swung open again, and Yu emerged with the moon god scepter. Her face was filled with anger, and she used the scepter to receive the incoming Emperor armament. A strand of pure white moonlight force immediately surged out. There's not much power left. My dear disciple, don't use it all so casually. The power within the moon god scepter can only be used to save lives. Fairy Hao Yu's voice suddenly rang in Yu Yu's head. Without her control, the power that gathered within the scepter dispersed by itself. Chapter 1178. Descent on Lore City 3. Fairy Hao Yu stopped Yu Yu, and an invisible force surged from the divine hall. It wrapped around Yu Yu and pulled her back into the divine hall. The door then slammed shut again. The control over the divine hall remained in Fairy Hao Yu's possession. Yu Yu had only obtained partial control after obtaining special permission from Fairy Hao Yu, so she did not possess absolute power over the structure. Up ahead, the Emperor armament had already threateningly stabbed toward the divine hall with a soaring presence under the control of the 5 great elders. The space outside was not as tough as inside the clan, so it was ripped apart like paper wherever the Emperor armament passed, causing a huge black gash to appear in the air. At this moment, a golden sword chi that was over 10 meters long shot over from behind. The sword chi glowed with a glimmering golden light, dyeing the night sky a golden hue. A huge phoenix completely condensed of white flames hovered beside the golden sword chi. Coupled with a clear phoenix's cry, it flew over with lightning-like speed beside the sword chi, heading toward the Emperor armament. Boom! The sword chi and phoenix violently collided with the Emperor armament, and an extremely powerful ripple of energy erupted. It caused the space in a radius of 100 meters to collapse, reducing it to utter darkness. Violent energy splayed down, collapsing countless mountains and causing the ground to shake. Huge cracks extended to 1,000 kilometers away. Fortunately, the ancient mountain range where the Changyang clan resided was desolate. Only a few magical beasts lived there, and rarely did anyone set foot there. Otherwise, just the ripples of the clash would have wiped out a large-scale city and turned it into a living hell. Powerful ripples of energy rammed into the Emperor armament and the 5 great elders in the form of storms after being blocked. It stopped them from advancing and forcefully pushed them back. The golden sword chi and the phoenix dispersed, and what replaced them was a glimmering sword and an exquisite fire-red hairpin. The presence of origin energy. These are origin energy weapons. The 5 great elders changed in expression slightly, and they also began to frown. It's the 3 powerful magical beasts. I never thought that they'd actually hurry over at this crucial moment, Changyang Qing Yinfeng growled. His complexion was extremely horrible. The 5 of them feared the magical beast trio very much, since they were existences that even Saint Emperors could do nothing to. 2 streaks, one golden and one red, broke through the pitch-black sky. They hurried over from afar extremely quickly. One moment, they were still near the horizon, far away, yet they had already arrived above the bright moon divine hall in the next. They faced against the 5 great elders. They were Rui Jin and Hong Lian. The Protector clan's miniature worlds sure are wondrous. They can actually isolate all presences from being sensed. Even my secret techniques of the Dragon clan couldn't find Jian Shen. If it weren't for the fact that the battle that had erupted earlier alerted us, we probably wouldn't have been able to find this place. Rui Jin stared coldly and emotionlessly at the 5 people as he held the sacred dragon's sword. The scorching godfire hairpin had returned to Hong Lian as well. She played around with the origin energy weapon in her hand and glanced out at the bright moon divine hall behind. She said, "The temptation of the saint's fruit really is enough to drive people mad. Looks like they've chosen to become Jian Shen's enemies for the fruit. This is an internal matter of our Protector clan. I hope you don't interfere. You may be in possession of origin energy weapons, but we have the Emperor armament left behind by our founding ancestor. The strength of it is not something you can imagine." Changyang Qing Yun gave a heavy warning. He did not want to provoke Rui Jin and the others so easily. Rui Jin began to sneer. "Then I wonder if the Emperor armament of your Protector clan is more powerful, or if the treasure of the Dragon clan, the sacred dragon's sword, is. And what about the legacy treasure of my Phoenix clan, the scorching godfire hairpin?" Hong Lian added as well. The 2 of them showed no fear at all against the Emperor armament. "Do the 2 of you really want to stick your noses into the business here?" Changyang Qing Yin was pale white. The Emperor armament was very powerful, but controlling it was just far too difficult. They would be fine if it was only temporary, but once they controlled it for a long period of time, they would receive a backlash from the Emperor armament's power. The price they would end up paying would be far too great. At this moment, another black figure flew over from the distance. He arrived beside Rui Jin and Hong Lian and stood with them. It was the black-robed Heiyu. Heiyu's condition seemed horrible. Blood constantly flowed from the corner of his lips, dribbling all over his chest. His skin had become black as well. He was even more heavily poisoned than before. However, Heiyu remained just as mighty as before. He stood there threateningly with his machete in hand and his gaze sharp. Elevated battle intent radiated from him, as if he was about to charge into battle. Suddenly, the 5 great elders gently jerked. They had controlled the Emperor armament for quite a while now, so they were beginning to slowly suffer a backlash. Changyang Qing Yin coldly stared at the bright moon divine hall for a while. He knew that if the great elders continued like this, the only people who would suffer in the end would be them. He finally made his decision and reluctantly ordered to retreat. "Let's return." The world gate was opened once again, and the 5 great elders returned to the clan with the Emperor armament. At the same time, the bright moon divine hall turned into a silver-white streak of light and shot off. It vanished in the blink of an eye, and Rui Jin, Hong Lian, and Heiyu followed it closely. Night loomed over Lore City in the Jesson Kingdom. A full moon hung in the sky, shining with hazy moonlight. Groups of armored guards could vaguely be made out in the night as they patrolled the dead silent city, quietly upholding peace. An extremely few number of lights let off their dazzling glow in the Changyang clan. Groups of burly men patrolled every inch of the clan in high spirits. Every single person had extremely sharp eyes, which constantly swept over the gloomy corners. They were not tired in any way at all. These people were the guards of the Changyang clan. The current Changyang clan was incomparable to its past, so even the guards and the people from before had become much stronger. There were plenty of Earth Saint Masters, and even quite a few Heaven Saint Masters. During the still night, most people were in deep dreams. But at this moment, the land became abnormally bright, and the darkness of the city instantly vanished. The whole city had become illuminated at that moment. The sudden occurrence alerted all the patrolling guards of the city and the clan. Many people instinctively raised their heads to look at the sky, only to see a silver-white divine hall slowly descending with bright moonlight. It stopped 100 meters above the Changyang clan in the end. "What's that?" "Quick, contact the city lord." The night guards had seen the divine hall from very far away. All of them became stunned before quickly making their way to the city lord's residence. At the same time, the heavy and hurried sound of war drums rang through the city. They spread far and wide, rousing all the people from their sleep or cultivation. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.